Yo legends! Welcome back to the channel. Grab your headphones and lock in, because today's story is on another level. Want the next chapter? Drop a comment below, and if the legend continues, I'm bringing it straight to you. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Note: I'm constantly tweaking the settings to make it as immersive as possible. The timeline where Goku destroys Earth. Chapter 61: The Truth About Bloodline Suppression. Heading to the trading planet. Speaking of which, there seems to be some special induction between these Super S cells. Bulma frowned and said, "When I put your Super S cell close to another person's Super S cell, there was a resonance between the two cells. It's a pity to say that the computer Shenlong gave me can't determine what the effect of this resonance is. Vegeta, who on earth did you get this hair from? It would be nice if we could test it on the spot." Cellular resonance. Why does it sound similar to what is described in some novels? Tai smiled and said, "Maybe in reality, the effect of this kind of resonance is actually to make people feel scared." Tai's was just saying this casually, but Vegeta next to her was moved. Could it be that the instinctive fear he felt when facing Broly at that time was actually due to this kind of resonance? Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain why only Vegeta felt fear when facing Broly. But Goku and even Trunks and Gohan, who were weaker than Vegeta, didn't feel anything at all. Bulma, does this Super S cell exist in every Saiyan? If you find me a few more Saiyans, maybe I can find the answer. Vegeta took note of Bulma's suggestion. Perhaps after he finishes his training on the planet Yadrat, he can really go find the few Saiyans left in this universe. One reason is to allow Bulma to continue to delve deeper into her research. Secondly, Vegeta also hopes to find an opponent for himself. Because when the strength grows to a certain level, only a strong opponent can help Vegeta quickly break through the bottleneck. But who should I look for? Is it his useless brother, Tabor? The Raditz brothers, whose lives or deaths are still unknown, but who have a good chance of escaping Frieza? Or is it Broly in this world? Forget it. No matter who I look for, it's not the most urgent thing at the moment. After all, Bulma's research was originally a commission that Vegeta casually proposed in order to prevent her from getting entangled with him. While Vegeta was pondering, Tai's beside him suddenly pointed at Vegeta's S-cell distribution map on another computer in confusion. She touched her chin and said, "Bulma, is this light spot an S-cell? Why doesn't Vegeta have any S-cells on his tail?" "This I'm not sure either. Maybe we can study it next." Tail. Vegeta glanced at the two of them. He couldn't help but think of the memories he got from the other fused soul. Although the memory was not detailed, he remembered that it seemed to say that the tail was related to a form more powerful than Super Saiyan 3. It was because of this vague memory that Vegeta deliberately kept his tail until now. The spacecraft continued to move forward, and they thought that the journey would be peaceful, but they did not expect that they would have to change course soon and temporarily interrupt the journey to Yadrat. Dad is such an idiot. That day, Vegeta had just finished his training and walked out of the gravity room when he heard Bulma's scream. He quickly ran to the warehouse at the back of the spaceship, and immediately saw Bulma looking at a pile of magazines on the ground with an annoyed look on her face. "What happened?" Tacy smiled awkwardly and said, "Bulma seems to have taken the wrong capsule for storing food. Everything here belongs to Dad, this big pervert. He pissed me off," Bulma said angrily, gritting her teeth. Knowing that Vegeta has a big appetite, Bulma prepared a lot of food and put it in the universal capsule this time. But because what we had eaten in the previous few days were all supplies that had been placed in the warehouse in advance, those ingredients had remained in the capsules and had not been taken out. As a result, all the food in the warehouse was eaten up in the past 2 days. Bulma was planning to take out some of the ingredients and store them in the warehouse, but she found that the capsules she had prepared turned into a pile of adult magazines collected by Dr. Brief. Almost at the same time, Dr. Brief, who had taken a break from his busy schedule, quietly took a capsule to his study. He was just about to appreciate the body art for a while, but he didn't expect that what emerged from the capsule was a pile of frozen meat and ham. Oh, Doctor. Brief was stunned. Back on the spaceship, Ties and Bulma had already counted the remaining food supplies. If Vegeta wasn't counted, they should have enough food to last another week. But if Vegeta is included, it would be hard to even last a day. What should we do? Should we go back first? Bulma looked at Vegeta, wanting to ask for his opinion. Don't look at me. I can last a long time without eating. As soon as Vegeta finished speaking, his stomach growled regardless of its owner's wishes. Bulma held her forehead with one hand, looking speechless. Are you still being stubborn even after all this? How about we change our route and go to another planet to resupply? Ties suddenly suggested. When I went into space with Jack before, I remembered that there should be a trading planet nearby. How about we go there? Vegeta suddenly remembered as well. Oh, speaking of which, there seems to be a trading planet nearby. Is it called Planet Baz? Bulma immediately rushed to then open the spaceship's star map. Except for the star Yadrat, all the star maps on this ship were drawn by the Tiwi people. But the Tiwi people can only be regarded as a backward civilized planet in the entire universe, and their star map is not detailed. Fortunately, the planet Baz was right on the star map and was not far from them. Let's go to Planet Baz. Bulma didn't ask for advice and immediately set a new course. Baz is a planet famous for trade. Because of its superior location and abundant resources, many races would stop here to rest during their interstellar voyages. Over time, this place became a planet dominated by trade. In the largest shopping mall on the planet Orlan, Bulma and Ties were walking on the street, and behind them was a figure wearing a cloak, wrapping himself tightly. Vegeta, why did you wrap yourself up like this? Bulma asked, looking confused. Vegeta lowered his head and pointed impatiently at a nearby wall. Open your eyes and see for yourself. Hearing this, Bulma and Ties immediately looked at the wall curiously. This is a wall full of electronic screens, divided into many areas. In every area, various messages written in alien languages are scrolling. Although they couldn't understand it, the two could still tell that most of it contained information about material transactions. But there are some exceptions. What is scrolling in this area is not the information about material transactions, but rather a series of headshots with numbers underneath. Bulma and Ties took a quick look and saw a familiar photo on it. Although the person in the photo was a little different from the one they knew now, the familiar spiky hair still made Bulma and Ties exclaim, Vegeta? Isn't this you? Chapter 62 The Raditz Brothers. As Bulma and Ties finished their words, a whirlwind blew around their ears. When they came to their senses, they found that they had been pulled into an alley by Vegeta. Idiot! Do you want everyone to hear it? Vegeta cursed. But Vegeta, what happened just now? Bulma pointed outside the alley. It's a wanted poster from Frieza's army. Vegeta explained. The Frieza army is a notorious evil force in the northern galaxy. But in fact, they are also a huge commercial real estate group with businesses all over the northern galaxy. So on Planet Baz, people from Frieza's army would pass by from time to time. The bounty just now was issued by Frieza's army. So it's Frieza's army? Bulma and Ties had heard about Frieza's army from Vegeta before, and they immediately understood. The three men walked out of the alley again and came to the wanted poster again. That's a photo of Vegeta when he was a child, right? I didn't expect you were so cute when you were a child, Ties said with a smile. Bulma smiled evilly. She is cute, but she is very stubborn. Vegeta snorted, but his eyes continued to focus on his wanted poster. I can't believe that more than 10 years have passed and Frieza is still looking for me. Snort. Vegeta snorted in his heart. In this life, his main goal is to become stronger in order to defeat Kakarot. Frieza and his ilk had originally wanted to ignore it. But if he came to him on his own initiative, Vegeta wouldn't mind killing him with his own hands to make up for his regret of not being able to defeat him in his previous life. Of course, Vegeta also knew that he was no match for Frieza at the moment. If he wanted to defeat Frieza, he would have to wait until he could transform into a Super Saiyan. Okay. Suddenly, Vegeta cried out in surprise. Because in the ever-changing bounty orders, he actually saw the figures of other Saiyans wanted. Reward for the escaped Saiyan Raditz and his gang. Crime, repeated attacks and destruction of planet Frieza. If anyone finds his whereabouts, Frieza's army will reward him handsomely. Bulma and Tais also saw the wanted poster for Raditz and his group. After all, in the bounty order of Frieza's army, Raditz and his gang's appearance, which is similar to that of Earthlings, looks particularly conspicuous. Vegeta, are these people also Saiyans? Bulma asked. Yes. Vegeta nodded and clenched his fists. Saiyan, I never thought there are still people like you alive. Bulma clapped her hands happily. In her opinion, if there were other Saiyans, her experiment would definitely make new progress. Bulma, Tais, how long are you going to watch? Go now. Vegeta's heart was in turmoil as he walked away from the wanted poster. Because on the wanted poster just now, in addition to Raditz, there was another Saiyan. And his name is Kakarot. In a corner of the universe, a small spaceship is slowly approaching a special asteroid. This asteroid was originally just an ordinary asteroid with an unremarkable appearance. However, one day, a group called the Zeta clan built the castle on the asteroid. From then on, this asteroid became the headquarters of the Theta clan and was named Theta Star. When the spacecraft landed on the asteroid's helipad, two figures walked down dragging a large bag. If Vegeta were here at this moment, he would recognize that these two people were among the few of his tribesmen left in this world. Saiyan Raditz and his brother Kakarot. Kakarot, how many times have I told you to control your power? If it weren't for me, our mission would have been in vain. There's nothing I can do, Raditz. You know I can't control myself after I turn into a giant ape. If we had known you were so useless, we shouldn't have quarreled with Granola. Just as the two were arguing, a guard stopped them. Stop. Pass. Please, do we two still need passes? The guard smiled and stepped aside. Raditz, Kakarot, why are there only two of you this time? Where's Granola? We had a fight. The guy said he wants to work alone in the future. Raditz shrugged. You must have worked hard. The guard laughed. Everyone knew that Granola was the absolute main force in the bounty hunter team he formed with the two Saiyans. Now that Granola is gone, these two Saiyans might die one day. However, the guard's laughter was interrupted by Kakarot's confident voice. We are the Saiyans, a fighting nation. What impact will the loss of one Granola have? Don't forget that the Cyril people perished at our hands. The guard stopped smiling and shook his head. I understand why Granola wants to go it alone. Go in. The boss is waiting for you. A moment later, Raditz and Kakarot arrived at the reception hall in the center of the castle. The 4 members of the Zeta clan had been waiting for them here for a long time. The Theta group is one of the few major forces in the galaxy, second only to Frieza's army. On the surface, they are engaged in businesses such as planetary revival and accepting bounties, but in fact they are secretly cooperating with Frieza's army and doing some shady things to make huge profits. However, as the core of this huge force, the Zeta clan has only 4 members. They are the leader Elec, the strongest warrior of the Zeta clan, Jas, and their siblings War and Maggie. Seeing Raditz and the other man, Elec immediately smiled and said, Welcome, Saiyan warriors. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Raditz snorted coldly and threw the big bag in his hand over. Oil. War, the strongest of the 4 siblings, walked up and opened his pocket, revealing the body of an alien. Oil checked it with the scanner and confirmed, Elec, it's Summer's body. Very good. Elec applauded and said, Raditz, I'm amazed by your and your brother's performance. I never thought that you could even defeat the captain of Frieza's army. The Saiyan's potential for growth is indeed amazing. After that, Elec winked at his sister Maggie, who threw a small bag out. Raditz caught it and opened it, only to find that there were only 4 empty golden rods inside. In the Dragon Ball universe, because different civilizations have different currencies, they all use the rare precious metal gold in the universe as the transaction currency when trading with each other. But these 4 empty gold rods are actually not a huge reward. Here is a summary of the world view of this book. If you are not interested, you can skip it. 1. Multiple spacetimes. In the setting of this book, for some reasons unknown even to the gods, there are countless parallel spacetimes in the Dragon Ball world. Among all the parallel spacetimes, the 7th universe is the most important main universe, and the rest of the universes only exist in the main spacetime that contains the complete universe. In more spacetimes, only the 7th universe exists, and there is no universe other than the 7th universe. These spacetimes where only the 7th universe exists are called small spacetimes, and the spacetime that contains the complete universe is called the main spacetime. 2. Vegeta's original world. The original world of Vegeta, the protagonist of this book, is a small spacetime without the god of destruction, angels, and Omni-Kings. This book refers to it as A1 spacetime. A1 spacetime can be considered as the original spacetime of Dragon Ball comics, including the first volume of Dragon Ball comics to the end of the Majin Buu arc. 3. The main world of this book, the world that Vegeta's soul arrives at after traveling through time. It is a main spacetime where the god of destruction exists. This book refers to it as B1 spacetime, which can be considered as a spacetime similar to the Dragon Ball animation, including the first episode of Dragon Ball animation to Dragon Ball Super, and some content from the Dragon Ball theatrical version. 4. Old Broly World, the illusion world that Vegeta arrives at after entering the illusion in the Temple of Heaven. Its original form is also a small space-time, without the god of destruction, angel, and Omni-King. The above is the world view of this book so far. If more worlds appear in the future, the settings will be updated. Chapter 63 Rumors about the Darles Pirates. Elec. Why are there only 4? The bounties for Kakarot and I are not this many, Raditz immediately said dissatisfiedly. He's just a small captain in Frieza's army, so of course he's only worth this much. Stingy guy. Although Raditz was dissatisfied, he was helpless. In this era where Frieza's army is the only dominant force, there are only a handful of forces that can compete with them. In order to survive, he and Kakarot had no choice but to work for Elec. Correct. Elec adjusted himself in his seat. If you want to make a lot of money, I have a task, but I don't know if you dare to take it. What mission? Destroy the members of the Darles Pirates. I'll give you 100 gold rods for each of them. 300 gold rods for Darles himself. And if you can steal the computer data in their spaceship, it will be 300 gold rods as well. Darles. Raditz suddenly looked embarrassed. I will think about it. After saying that, he took Kakarot away. Watching their spaceship leave the planet of Theta, Maggie asked, Elec, do you think they will complete the mission? Elec raised the corner of his mouth. You must be joking. If the Darles pirates were so easy to destroy, Frieza wouldn't have sent anyone to us to issue a bounty. After all, Darles is the Saiyan he hates the most. Jas, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up, but they are growing up very fast, aren't they? Especially that Kakarot. Jas clenched his fists tightly, just like his father. Lak put his hand on his shoulder. No matter how fast they grow, they are still no match for you, my dear brother. Because sooner or later, you will become the strongest person in this universe. At the same time, on Raditz's spaceship, since leaving the Star of Sita, Raditz has been resting with his eyes closed. Kakarot, who was in charge of flying the spaceship, glanced at his brother. Raditz, are the Darles pirates very powerful? You haven't spoken since you left Elec and the others. Raditz opened his eyes and said, I didn't speak, not because I was afraid, but because that Darius is a Saiyan like us. Ah, are there other Saiyans alive besides us? Kakarot said with some surprise. Yes, and this Darles is your cousin, Kakarot. Cousin? Raditz recalled the instructions their mother Jin gave him before she passed away. This is what my mother told me before she died. She said that my father had a brother's child who was a few years older than me. Because he defected after a conflict with Frieza's army while on a mission, he escaped just like us when Frieza attacked planet Vegeta. Mom once wanted us to look for the Darles after she died, but later I heard that Guy formed a pirate group, so I gave up. Why? Kakarot didn't quite understand. He and Raditz have been working for the Sita clan over the years, not only to make a living, but also to take revenge on Frieza. If they had a helper like Darles, perhaps their road to revenge could have reached its end sooner. Raditz shrugged his shoulders and said, "You don't know, Darius's pirate group is a group that even Frieza has a headache with. In the past, they often attacked Frieza's people and even attacked several of Frieza's planets several times, leaving no one alive each time. This guy is making such big moves. One day, Frieza will not be able to resist and take action himself. Let alone Frieza now, even the guys in the Ginyu force are no match for him. Following Darius is suicide." At this point, Raditz patted Kakarot on the shoulder and said, "Don't feel sorry, Kakarot. Although you were born a low-level warrior, your talent is the strongest among all the Saiyans I have ever seen. Even without Darius, you will surpass Frieza one day. You have to remember that among the two of us brothers, you are the one most likely to become the legendary Super Saiyan. When the time comes, the revenge of your father, your mother, and all Saiyans will be accomplished by your own hands." Kakarot nodded and continued to concentrate on driving. Raditz held his head in his hands and lay back in the seat. Although what he said just now sounded very righteous, he still felt a little regretful that he could not accept this mission. 100 empty gold bars per person, that's a lot of money. However, he had heard that the Darles pirates had 6 members, including Darles. He only has Kakarot as his helper, so he is really powerless. If only I could find another helper. Should I go and apologize to that guy Granola? Vegeta and his crew, who had originally planned to replenish their supplies on planet Bass, discovered when they had already set their sights on the target and were ready to trade that they had forgotten the most important thing: money. Neither Vegeta nor Bulma carried anything that could be used as currency. Fortunately, this time, Ties, who had once traveled in space, came up with an idea. Barter. The most valuable thing in their hands is the universal capsule. According to Ties, even Jake, a galactic patrolman, had never seen similar compression technology on any other planet. So with just one universal capsule, Bulma was able to exchange for enough food supplies. The other party even paid a lot of extra money. With money in hand, Bulma and Ties's feminine instincts were instantly awakened. The two planned to take the money to the market to continue shopping. "Vegeta, you won't be with us. I'm not going to carry your bags for you." Vegeta refused without hesitation. The expressions of Bulma and Ties at this moment awakened the deep fear in his memory caused by the time he accompanied Bulma shopping. So after taking 100 empty golden rods from Bulma, Vegeta separated from them and wandered alone on the busy commercial street. Vegeta walked in when passing by a shop selling star maps. The star map on their spaceship was too simple, and although he had no plans to go anywhere else for the time being, Vegeta still wanted to supplement the star map library in Bulma's computer. Otherwise, it would be too extravagant to use the dragon every time you go to an unknown place. After talking with the clerk for a while, Vegeta got a brand new star map as he wished. This is a star map with information about all the planets in the northern galaxy. Please keep it for yourself, sir. Taking the star map storage device, Vegeta suddenly thought of something. Is there a star map of planet Vampa in here? Chapter 64: Encounter with Frieza and Ash 039's army. Wampa. Let me take a look. After the clerk opened the computer and searched for a while, he said with regret, "I'm sorry, customer, we don't seem to have the star map of Vampa you mentioned." "That's it. Vegeta paid and left. It was also his sudden idea to want the star map of Wampa, because according to his memory, in addition to the two brothers Raditz and Kakarot whose whereabouts are unknown, there are two Saiyans wandering outside this world. These two Saiyans are Broly, who was exiled to planet Vampa by his father King Vegeta, and Broly's father Paragus, who followed him. But according to the memories obtained by Vegeta from the fusion of souls, although these two people have the same name, they are not the same people he met in the illusion. Especially Broly. The Broly in this world is no longer the legendary Super Saiyan, but a special Saiyan who has undergone some kind of mutation. His combat power growth is even more amazing than that of Super Broly, and he can control the power of the giant ape without transforming. Vegeta had never seen Broly in either his past or present life, so he suddenly had an idea to take a look at the star map of Vampa. But since there is no star map for the time being, that's fine. Although Broly has a kind personality, his father Paragus hates Vegeta and his father to the core. If we go there rashly, I'm afraid a conflict might occur. Holding the star map, Vegeta began to walk towards the spaceship. Suddenly, Vegeta's face changed. He pulled his cloak to cover his figure, hid aside, and looked towards the road. Several aliens wearing Frieza Corps combat uniforms were seen swaggering down the street. The nearby aliens retreated when they saw them. These members of Frieza's army were following the lead of a pink fat man with tumors all over his head. Dodori? Vegeta narrowed his eyes slightly. I didn't expect to meet someone from Frieza's army here, and it turned out to be my old acquaintance Dodoria. Dodoria is an elite warrior of Frieza's army, and also Frieza's personal bodyguard and right-hand man. He rarely left Frieza, but he didn't expect to run into him on planet Baz today. At this time, Dodoria was walking towards somewhere in a swaggering manner. As he walked, he asked several soldiers beside him, "Are you sure? Do those two women really have such magical props?" The soldiers around Dodoria are all low-level soldiers of Frieza's army, with a combat strength of only 2,000 to 3,000. Facing Dodoria, they were respectful and had fawning expressions on their faces. "Yes, Mr. Dodoria, that prop is amazing. It's so small, but it can even fit on a spaceship." Dodoria raised her lips after hearing this. "It's a rare vacation, and I actually encountered such a good thing. If I give that thing to King Frieza, he will definitely be very happy." "Yes, yes." The lower-level soldiers nodded one after another. Watching them go away, Vegeta's heart sank. It seems that Bulma and the others are still being targeted. I knew it would be like this. That woman doesn't know how to be more low-key. Although he complained in his heart, Vegeta had no choice but to follow. A few kilometers away, in a commercial square, Bulma and Tais were surrounded by several members of Frieza's army. There were several members of Frieza's army standing nearby, threatening the aliens passing by and telling them not to meddle in other people's business. Although Planet Baz also has its own security forces, the Frieza army is a notorious evil force in the universe. Therefore, as long as they don't go too far, the Baz Star Guard can only turn a blind eye to the behavior of these people. Seeing that no one came to help, Bulma and Tais looked nervous, knowing that they might be in big trouble. "What on earth are you doing?" Hey, several soldiers from Frieza's army just grinned, but did not take any action. Because they are waiting for someone. And this person is Dodoria. A moment later, Dodoria came over and said with a smile, "You too, huh? I heard you have some magical space compression items. Can you sell them to us?" "You mean the universal capsule?" Bulma felt relieved when she found out that the other party just wanted to buy something. She slowed down and asked, "How much are you paying?" "Money?" Dodoria scratched her head. "Did I say I had to spend money to buy it?" "What? You want to rob? What kind of robbery?" "This is Planet Baz. Don't ruin the reputation of our Frieza army." Dodoria shrugged. The surrounding warriors of Frieza's army sneered. Bulma's face froze. Only after she heard the other party call themselves Frieza's Legion did she realize that these guys in front of her were actually the Frieza Legion that Vegeta had mentioned that destroyed the Cyan planet. What bad luck. How could I be targeted by these guys? Bulma couldn't help but whisper. It's you. You're showing off the universal capsule everywhere. Ties rolled her eyes. It's not very obvious. It must be the universal capsule in Bulma's hand that attracted these people's covetousness. Sister, didn't you buy things too? Bulma looked aggrieved. All right, hand over your stuff. You two look a lot like Saiyans, so I'm going to check you out. If you don't hand over your stuff, don't blame me for using force. Dodoria sneered. Baz is a neutral planet after all. Although the Frieza army is notorious in the universe, as long as they are doing business, they cannot act too overbearingly. That's why he used this excuse. Anyway, it just so happens that these two women look really similar to Saiyans. Just when Dodoria was about to bear it and use violence, the detector on his face suddenly issued a beeping warning sound. Immediately afterwards, Dodoria heard bang 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 sounds in her ears. When he turned around, he found that his subordinates were lying on the ground, all dead. And the culprit was a guy completely covered in a cloak. You! Who are you? How dare you attack our Frieza army? Dodoria couldn't help but sound a little flustered as she watched her subordinate suddenly die. He kept pressing the detector's switch, trying to confirm the opponent's combat effectiveness, but found that the combat effectiveness of the man in front of him was only 5. But how did a scumbag with a combat power of only 5 kill so many of his subordinates? Stop hiding it. Tell me. Who are you? Boom. Dodoria's detector suddenly exploded. He soon discovered that the person who took action was the man hidden in the cloak in front of him. Because the man's finger was pointing at him. Dodoria took a deep breath, her face looking extremely grim. I have followed Lord Frieza for so many years, but this is the first time I have suffered such a loss. Chapter 65, Galactic Patrolman Jack. Who are you? If you don't say anything, don't blame me for taking action. Dodoria, after all these years, you're still so ugly. Vegeta sneered and took off his cloak. It's you? Dodoria had a look of disbelief on his face. Although his appearance had changed a little, he still recognized that the man in front of him was none other than the Saiyan prince they had been looking for many years. Vegeta. The corners of Dodoria's mouth slightly raised. Tisk, I thought it was some scary guy, turns out it's you. Dodoria's expression gradually changed from fear to arrogance. In his heart, Vegeta is still the little guy who would fall down at the slightest touch. When he defected, Vegeta's recorded combat power was only 12,000. Even after so many years, his combat power could not exceed 20,000. As long as you pay a little attention to the Saiyan's giant ape transformation, there is nothing to be afraid of, just Vegeta. On the contrary, if I can catch him, then Lord Frieza's reward, haha. But at this moment, a bad premonition suddenly flashed through Dodoria's mind and many more. When my detector was still there just now, I saw that Vegeta's combat power was only 5, right? After so many years, his fighting ability couldn't possibly become so weak, unless Dodoria thought of something his companion Sabo once said. Rumor has it that some races in the universe can control their own combat power without transforming. Could it be that Vegeta? What's wrong, Dodoria? Aren't you going to attack me? Hasn't the Frieza army been offering a bounty on me? Are you here to take my head and give it to Frieza? Dodoria felt a chill all over her body, and all the pores on her body tightened. Something is wrong, something is so wrong. Dodoria decided to let Vegeta go for now and leave here. But at this moment, Vegeta suddenly reached out and grabbed him. In an instant, Dodoria's body froze and she flew upwards uncontrollably. Vegeta, what do you want to do? I didn't intend to look for you, but it seems you are destined to die in my hands, Dodoria. Die? It's ridiculous. How could I, Lord Dodoria, die at the hands of a Saiyan? Get moving. My body. Move. Just as Dodoria tried to regain control of his body, Vegeta's open fingers suddenly turned into a tense and powerful fist. This action seemed to be some kind of signal. The next moment, Dodoria's originally round body suddenly began to cave inward as if something was squeezing it madly. Accompanied by a bang, Dodoria exploded, blooming radioactive flesh, bone, and blood in the sky. Dirty fireworks. After dealing with Dodoria, Vegeta immediately put his cloak back on and turned to look at Bulma and the others. Bulma, how many times has this happened? How many times are you going to cause me trouble? Bulma looked aggrieved. It's not my fault if you hadn't bought so many things to attract attention. How could they have targeted you? Yes, it's all your fault, Bulma. Tais also nodded in agreement with Vegeta. Sister, didn't you buy it too? Vegeta shook his head helplessly, unable to stand these two women. Let's go. What happened just now must have alerted the Baz Star Guard. If you don't want to cause any more trouble, leave now. This time Bulma finally listened to Vegeta's warning and immediately pulled Tais to follow. By the time the guards from Planet Baz finally arrived, Vegeta and his team had already left Planet Baz. Ruined. Seeing the corpses of Frieza's soldiers on the ground, the captain of the Baz Star Guard suddenly felt a headache. Frieza's army is notorious in the universe. Their people died on planet Baz. How could this be possible? If Frieza's army came to demand accountability, although planet Baz wouldn't be in danger, his position as the captain of the security team would be over. Captain, what should we do? What else can we do? Call the police. I just hope the Galactic Patrol can find the murderer for us and give an explanation to the Frieza army in a corner of the universe not far from the planet Baz. A teardrop-shaped aircraft is flying at high speed. But suddenly, a wailing sound came from inside the plane. No way. Why do I have work again? Sir, I haven't completed my last mission yet. Inside the teardrop spaceship, a purple-skinned alien dressed in the uniform of a Galactic Patrol officer was complaining into the communicator. This police officer has big eyes and no hair on his body, looking like a wild Ultraman. The police officer's name is Jake. Although he is just a young Galactic Patrolman, he is responsible for the security of a large area of the star field. Of course, the truth is although the Galactic Patrol sounds like a big name, the actual number of police officers is less than 100, so even a newcomer can be responsible for a large area. Just now, Jack received a new task. A murder has occurred on a planet called Baz in the star field he is in charge of, and Baz has asked the Galactic Patrol to assist in the investigation. However, Jake didn't want to go, because at the moment there was a more important task, like a tight hoop around his head. Jack, since Baz Star is in your area, of course you have to do this job. But sir, what about my other case? How about you ask Myers to help me? Myers is the Galaxy Patrolman of Nambo Bay. He is responsible for 104 areas. How can he be free to help you? Jake, do your best. I believe in you. Beep. Seeing that his superior hung up the phone without hesitation, Jake looked helpless. It's so annoying. I'm so busy. What should I do? Or should I just forget about the case? Before Jack could finish his words, the communication that had been interrupted suddenly resumed. Commander Gak's serious face appeared on the communication screen again. Jack, what did you say you were going to forget? The officer looked at Jake suspiciously. Report, sir. Jack said in a serious tone, I was just saying that we must not forget the oath of the Galactic Patrol. Loyalty. By the way, sir, didn't you just cut off the communication? What's going on? Well, never mind. I just wanted to remind you that King Kai has given special attention to Darles' case. You must complete it. Only success is allowed, no failure. That's it. Seeing the communication being cut off again, Jake was devastated and wailed again. Because the case the commander was talking about was to catch the notorious Darles pirates. Find the secret treasure of God. The Seeds of the Spirit Tree, stolen by the Darles pirates. Chapter 66 Bulma Antash 039's Combat Power Detector. Jack has always boasted that he is an elite member of the Galactic Patrol. But in fact, he also knew that he was actually the last one in the Galactic Patrol, especially after the failure of the last mission ordered by the King of the Galaxy to intercept Vegeta, who was heading to Earth. Jack's status in the Galactic Patrol has become increasingly lower. In order to restore his honor, Jack asked his superiors to assign him an elite mission to prove himself. However, he did not expect that the first task his boss gave him was to challenge the Darles pirates. Jack is well aware of his own strength. If he were to go alone to face the Darius pirates, who had attacked Frieza's army many times and successfully destroyed several of Frieza's army's base planets, he would be courting death. Forget it. Only by surviving can one become an elite. As for the Darles pirates, just pretend that we don't know. While convincing himself, Jack went to planet Baz. Not long after, on planet Baz, the head of the Baz Guard looked at the Galactic Patrol in front of him with a look of suspicion. Sir Patrolman, if you don't give chase, they will get far away, right? Jake looked at the crime scene seriously. What do you know? Without a detailed on-site investigation, how can I confirm the identity of the murderer? What if I catch the wrong person? But we have witnesses. If you want to know the identity of the murderer, just ask him directly. Jake stood up immediately, complaining. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? It's all your fault that the murderer escaped. The person in charge was speechless, muttering in his heart, forget it. If it wasn't to shirk responsibility, who would let you incompetent Galactic Patrolman come here? A moment later, a businessman who ran a shop nearby was called over and described the appearance of the three murders to Jack. As Jake listened to the description, he was sketching himself. Soon, he finished drawing the appearance of the three murders. Look, are they the three of them? The businessman almost widened his eyes, but he couldn't tell that the sketch drawn by Jack looked like the three murders he had just mentioned. Sir Patrolman, the murderer I mentioned was a guy wearing a cloak and whose face couldn't be seen clearly. But why does the one you drew look so much like the head of our Baz Star Guard? You already said you couldn't see his face clearly. How can I draw him without a face? I can only use him as a reference. Seeing that Jack was confident, the merchant had no choice but to nod and continue. What about the other two? Those two are obviously female individuals of a certain species. You did get their hair color right this time, but they don't look that ugly, do they? There's none? Jake looked at the blue-haired monster and the blonde monster he had drawn. The businessman nodded. Yeah, and speaking of which, those two female individuals are actually a bit like Saiyans. Well, the people from Frieza's army used this reason to harass them at the beginning. Oh, right. I also heard that one of them called the other Tais and the other called the other Bulma. Jack was suddenly stunned. Could it be that the person who killed Frieza's army was the Tais he knew? But how could they, two Earthlings, possibly? Oh. Jake opened his mouth wide, as if he had thought of something 3 days after leaving planet Baz. Vegeta and his crew on the spaceship. Vegeta did not practice today, but was dragged by Bulma to conduct experiments. But his experiment this time was not to study S cells, but he was pulled in to test the new combat power detector made by Bulma. When leaving planet Baz, Bulma secretly took away a combat power detector from Frieza's army. Bulma was very interested in this thing that could measure strength and serve as a communicator and life detector. After returning to the spaceship, she immediately began to study it. Of course, before that, Vegeta did not forget to remind her to remove the positioning device and the eavesdropping device. After several days of hard work, she finally came up with this device she named the Combat Power Detector. Although it is only one word different from Frieza's army's Combat Power Detector. But in Bulma's words, the two are completely different things. Because in this device, Bulma used a completely different strength calculation formula from that of Frieza's army. All right, Vegeta, we're ready, just go all out. At this time, Bulma and Tais each wore a lens-like device on their faces. Bulma brought the combat power detector she developed herself, while Tai brought the combat power detector of Frieza's army. Both of them locked their sights on Vegeta, waiting for him to burst out with his full strength for the test. This kind of thing is totally unnecessary, Vegeta complained helplessly. In his opinion, he could sense the strength of the Kai anyway, so there was no need to use any combat power detection device. But since Bulma had asked him, he couldn't refuse what? With a loud shout, blue light exploded around Vegeta, burning like flames coming. The detectors on Bulma and Tai's faces immediately began beeping. It's out, Vegeta. Your combat power is now 12. Tais exclaimed. The detector on her face had been adjusted to the upper limit of its measurement by Bulma, so there was no need to worry about an explosion. 12 million. Vegeta did not comment, but looked at Bulma beside him. Bulma, how much is this? Also 12. Vegeta, you haven't used your full strength yet, right? Bulma asked suddenly. Did you see it? Vegeta smiled lightly and then released all his energy. Of course, in order to avoid damaging the spacecraft, he still retained some strength. 25. Vegeta, you've reached 25. Tais exclaimed. Vegeta smiled faintly. In the past few days, he had adjusted the gravity of the gravity room to 100 times, which really made his combat power improve by leaps and bounds. But at this time, Vegeta heard Bulma say, 14. Vegeta, your combat power is 14. Vegeta restrained his breath and asked curiously, Bulma, is there something wrong with your formula? I have already used 90% of my strength just now. There's nothing wrong with my formula. The problem is actually the combat power you used before. It's just as I thought. The combat power detector of Frieza's army actually inflates your strength. Inflated strength? How could that be? Vegeta was stunned. Before learning how to sense Kai, combat power is almost the only criterion for all Saiyans to evaluate their strength. Now Bulma actually said that the combat power detector is inaccurate. Doesn't that mean that the Saiyans of the past, as well as those guys in Frieza's army, are all jokes? Bulma, give me an explanation. Chapter 67 The Reason for the Collapse of Combat Power. Vegeta, let me ask you a question first. What exactly is fighting power in your mind? Of course it's the numerical value that evaluates our strength. Vegeta almost blurted out. Although in the original world, the Z warriors on Earth have not mentioned the concept of combat power for a long time since the Battle of Namek, what combat power actually means has almost been firmly fixed in Vegeta's thinking system. Then do you know how combat effectiveness is calculated? This is Kai? Vegeta speculated. Of course, it's just speculation, but Vegeta basically believes that this is the fact. Because when he first came to Earth, he discovered that Sun Wukong and the others on Earth had mastered the technique of restraining their anger. So when facing them, the combat power detector will become inaccurate at all. As long as you restrain your breath, even if you have a combat power of 1 million, the combat power detector will only think that your combat power is only 5. Yes, what is Kai? Kai isn't Kai just energy. I think I understand. Vegeta suddenly came to his senses, and he seemed to have understood the principle of Bulma's combat power detector. I also understand why Bulma feels that the combat power detector cannot actually accurately measure a person's strength. Because Kai or energy is not actually the whole of strength. When Vegeta was training in the illusion of the Temple of Heaven, Mr. Popo once told him that the strength of one's Kai cannot actually determine one's actual strength. Because even if you have a strong Kai, if you don't know how to use it, the person with a strong Kai may not necessarily defeat the person with a weak Kai. In fact, in addition to Broly's example, Super Saiyan can also be used as an example. Vegeta remembered that in his original world, Trunks from the future once created the Super Saiyan 1 stage form. This form can even be compared to the strength of Super Saiyan 2 in terms of aura alone. However, because he focused too much on strength. The speed in his form was greatly reduced, resulting in Trunks being defeated miserably without any suspense when facing the perfect form of Cell. But if there was a combat power detector measuring Trunks at that time, it might be possible that Trunks' combat power was higher than Cell's. When Vegeta told Bulma his speculation, the latter smiled and said, "You are right. After checking, I found that this combat power detector is actually an energy detector. So when you talked about the level of combat power in the past, you were actually just talking about your energy value. But in fact, true strength is not just about energy. The evaluation criteria of my combat power detector is to take your physical strength, speed, and energy into account in the calculation formula. But I have too little time, and the formula may not be perfect yet. If I have time in the future, I will consider taking techniques into account." Vegeta's eyes widened, as if realizing for the first time the intelligence of the woman in front of him. To be honest, although he knew that Bulma was very smart, he had never had such an intuitive feeling as today. "Bulma, you're amazing." "Really?" "I think so too. Though, oh." Seeing Bulma suddenly laughing out of pride, Vegeta turned his head. Maybe I shouldn't have praised her just now. At this time, Vegeta thought of another thing. By the way, Bulma, our Kai can not only be used as energy, but can also strengthen our bodies, so even physical strength and speed are not static. Yes, I know. After all, Kai is energy. When the energy is high, your body will also change, but I need to verify the relationship between this change and energy through experiments. Wait a minute. I'll take note and take this into consideration when making improvements next time. Just as Bulma was taking notes, the three of them suddenly felt their spaceship seem to vibrate, and then an invasion alarm sounded on the spaceship. Someone is trying to hack into their ship. Boom! Before the three could react, a round hole was cut out in the outer shell of the top of the corridor of the spaceship far away from them. With a click, Galactic Patrolman Jack landed in front of the three people and posed on the spot. "Don't move. Put your hands up." The righteous Galactic Patrolman Jack comes to pay his respects. Jack, who was posing, saw Vegeta staring at him and immediately froze in place like a mouse seeing a cat. "Vegeta. It's you? You know me?" Vegeta folded his arms across his chest and sneered. Yes, excuse me for disturbing you. Goodbye." Just as Jack was about to go back, Bulma and Ties jumped out from behind Vegeta. The latter smiled and waved his hand. "Jake. It's you. Long time no see." "Ah, it's you, Ties." Jake, who was already hanging on the hole with his hands, turned around and saw Ties there, but he did not jump back. Instead, he crawled into the hole, leaving only his head exposed, looking like he was ready to run away at any time. "Come down. Don't be afraid. Vegeta is our companion," Ties greeted. "Really?" Jack glanced at Vegeta, and seeing that he really didn't seem to be planning on attacking, he jumped down carefully. "Sister, is this the Galactic Patrolman you mentioned? Is there any meaning behind what he did just now?" Tacy said speechlessly, "You don't have to care about it, he just likes to add actions to himself when he speaks." "Come on, what are you doing here this time? I know you definitely didn't come here just to see me. I called you so many times before and no one answered." Hahaha. Jake laughed awkwardly, then said seriously, "Actually, I'm here to arrest you." "Arrest? Why?" "Because you are suspected of killing people from Frieza's army on planet Baz." "Of course, I understand now. It must have been done by Vegeta, right?" In fact, Jack still had some doubts about this matter. After all, according to the investigation, the remains of Dodoria, an elite warrior of Frieza's army, were also found at the crime scene. According to the data from the Galactic Patrol, that guy's combat power is as high as 2. With a combat power of 2, unless he transforms into a giant ape, how could anyone among the Saiyans be able to kill him? But now, seeing Vegeta's sneer on his face, Jack knew that he was not wrong. He really did kill the person. Could he be the legendary Super Saiyan? Jack suddenly shuddered, and this thought came to his mind. The Galactic Patrol has recorded the past history of almost all races in the universe, and the Saiyans of planet Vegeta are naturally included in the records. So Jack also knew the legend about the Super Saiyan. Now that he knew that Vegeta's combat power might be above 2, Jack naturally thought of the rumored Super Saiyan. If it's true. Chapter 68, Galactic Patrolman Jack and temporary member Vegeta. Hey! Ginyu was still in a daze, and Tais beside him was already waving her arms in front of him with a frown. Seeing that Jack had come back to his senses, Tais immediately said, "Jack, what do you mean by someone suspected of killing Frieza's army? Since when did you, the Galactic Patrol, care about the life and death of Frieza's army? Besides, we were just acting in self-defense." Jake said in a serious tone, "Planet Baz is a neutral trade planet. If you kill people on the planet, you will violate the galactic neutrality law. I have the right to snap." Vegeta suddenly slapped the wall beside him. When he moved his hand away, a palm print was clearly visible on the wall. "Right to what?" "You have the right to." Jake shrank his neck and immediately continued in a serious tone, "You have the right to analyze the case based on the specific circumstances. According to my judgment, you were acting in self-defense, so you can be pardoned." Bulma covered her mouth and smiled at her sister. "This guy is as stubborn as Vegeta." "A little bit." Tacy looked helpless, but she was used to Jake. "Since we are fine, why did you come to us?" "It's okay, I just came to confirm." "I'm leaving now. Bye." Jake turned around and jumped back into his spaceship. But a moment later, he came back. Jack hesitated and said, "Okay, I actually have something I want to ask Vegeta. Please help me. This is the request of my life." Jake put his palms together and made a gesture of asking for help. "Me? What's the matter?" Vegeta raised his eyebrows. "What could a galactic patrolman need help from?" You know, in the original world he had fought with the Galactic Patrol many times. Jack raised his head and took out the projection equipment he carried with him. "I would like to ask Mr. Vegeta to chase a group of space pirates with me. Their name is the Darles Pirates, and there are 6 members in total. They are the galactic criminal Amando, Prince Days of the planet Capacha, the former bounty hunter Kakao, and the Bins brothers Rez and Lacus, who were thought to be extinct following Jack's explanation. Photos of the members of the Darles Pirates appeared one by one in front of everyone. And the leader of the Darles Pirates, Darles. When Bulma and Tais saw Darius appear last, they were stunned. "Huh? This guy looks like a Saiyan." "Oh yeah. Vegeta, you Vegeta?" Bulma was about to ask Vegeta for his opinion, but suddenly found an expression of hatred suddenly appeared on the latter's face. The temperature inside the spacecraft seemed to drop by several degrees in an instant, becoming chilly. Jack could even feel the murderous intent coming from Vegeta and took a step back in fear. "Vegeta, do you know this Darius?" "Darles? Yes, he is not that Kakarot." Vegeta came back to his senses, and the killing intent in him disappeared. The moment he saw Darles just now, he almost thought he saw Kakarot from his own world. Not only do the two look almost identical, but even the expressions on their faces are almost identical. But after being awakened by Jack, he remembered that Darles and Kakarot were actually 2 people. "I am not interested." Vegeta turned his head. "Hey, don't be like this. Tacy, please help me speak up." Jack didn't originally want Vegeta to help. It's really shameful that a member of the Galactic Patrol organization would ask a Saiyan for help. But he is now at his wit's end. His superiors are pushing him too hard this time. Just as he is on his way to leave Planet Baz, his boss calls him again, urging him to deal with the Darius pirates as soon as possible. But judging from the other party's tone, Jack even suspected that if he messed up the mission this time, he might be expelled from the Galactic Patrol. Alas, such a heavy KPI forces even the working man Jack to give up a little dignity. But Tice shrugged and said, "You asked the wrong person. I can't convince Vegeta, but my sister might be able to." MS. Bulma. Jack immediately looked at Bulma. Bulma was also in a dilemma. What pirate group? It sounded very scary. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Jake gritted his teeth and stomped his feet. "Mr. Vegeta, the Darles pirates have the fruit of God. If you help me, I can make an exception and let you take one." Fruit of God. Vegeta became interested. "Are you talking about the fruit of the spirit tree?" "Hey, you know what?" "Yes, that's it." Vegeta stroked his chin. "The fruit of the spirit tree is quite interesting. According to the memories obtained through fusion, the spirit tree is a fruit tree planted by gods, and the fruits it bears are usually only enjoyed by gods. But if a mortal eats it, he will also benefit greatly from it and greatly increase his strength." Darles was originally just a low-level warrior like Kakarot, but it was with the help of the fruit of the spirit tree that he gained the power to fight against Frieza's army. Vegeta looked down on Dale's method of relying on external objects to improve his strength. "But I couldn't suppress my curiosity about this magical fruit." Not long after fixing Jack's spaceship to Bulma and the other's spaceship, Vegeta and his crew changed direction again and headed towards the place where the Darles Legion appeared according to the intelligence. "Haha, Galactic Patrolman Jack and temporary member Vegeta, let's go." The Jake was in high spirits, completely different from his previous miserable look. This guy, maybe the Ginyu Force is more suitable for him than the Galactic Patrol. Vegeta looked at Jack in silence as he made a silly pose and made a comment. "Ginyu Force? I don't want that. That Ginyu is a scary guy." Jack turned around suddenly and said. Vegeta shrugged. "Ginyu? Scary? If I were still on planet Vegeta, I might think so. But after 2 lifetimes, in his opinion, it was just a funny character. In the Milky Way, in a strange space that mortals cannot enter, there is a tiny planet floating. This planet is about 100 meters in diameter, but it is the abode of gods. And its owner is none other than the King of the North." At this moment, on King Kai's planet, a brown gorilla was chasing a grasshopper-like creature. The noise of their fighting greatly displeased the King of the North, who was observing the mortal world with bated breath. "Barbarous, Giraghly, don't run around while I'm working." King Kai of the North roared in exasperation, and the tentacles on his head kept shaking. The gorilla Barbarous tilted his head to look at him, made a few loud noises, and then started chasing the grasshopper Giraghly again. King Kai of the North had a frown on his face, so he took a deep breath and ignored them. At this moment, in the mind of King Kai of the North, he was paying attention to a planet called Ikonda. Chapter 69 3 Forces. The planet Ikonda is a technological planet famous in the universe for its high technology. The life on this planet is not the carbon-based life commonly seen in the universe, but a silicon-based life form. In the past, wars between the Ikonda people continued to break out on this planet. The intensity of the war even spread across the globe and has lasted for 1,000 years. This means that when looking at Ikonda from outer space, spots of light caused by the war can be seen on the surface of the planet at all times. However, today, the lively scene on this planet has disappeared. A deathly silence is spreading across the globe. The silicon-based life forms above are dying one by one. This phenomenon was not caused by the war of the Ikonda people, nor was it a natural disaster, but was triggered by some external force. Damn Darles. Ikonda is finished. Why hasn't the Galactic Patrol sent anyone to catch him? North Kai's face was full of helplessness and complaints. In his sight, he could see a dark red towering tree standing tall on this half-dead planet. The strong tree roots are deeply rooted in the soil, and the blue leaves block out the sun. The life force of the entire planet is being continuously absorbed by the roots and leaves of this giant tree. This big tree is the culprit that caused everything, the spiritual tree planted by the Darles Legion. The spirit tree is the fruit tree of the gods, and according to common sense, it can only grow in the environment of the divine realm. Once it enters the netherworld, without the nutritional nourishment of the divine environment, the spirit tree will use the life energy of the entire planet as its source of nutrition, turning the entire planet into a Death Star. As the king of the North Galaxy, who is responsible for protecting the lower world, King Kai of the North cannot ignore such things that destroy the balance of nature. However, as the manager of the realm, King Kai of the North cannot personally interfere in the affairs of the lower realm like God Kai does. All he can do is recruit strong people from the mortal world to do things for him. So this time, after discovering that the Darles Legion actually controlled the spirit tree, King Kai of the North immediately notified the Galactic Patrol, hoping that they could resolve the crisis. What King North Kai didn't expect was that for such a top priority task as retrieving the fruit of the spirit tree, the Galactic Patrol only sent a rookie patrolman. However, we cannot blame the Galactic Patrol for not taking it seriously. The galaxy is simply too big and they have too few people. Therefore, when there is a mission, patrol officers in their respective areas are assigned first to handle it. King Kai of the North took a quick look at the situation at the Galactic Patrol, and after some investigation, he finally found out that the person in charge of this mission was a patrolman named Jake. Jack, let me see what's going on. Isn't this just a rookie? The Galaxy King is such an idiot. Why would he give such an important mission to a rookie? Huh? Jack actually found a Saiyan. Wait, isn't this the Saiyan Prince Vegeta? I didn't expect he's still alive. This guy is a very vicious guy. King Kai of the North couldn't help but recall the scene he saw a few years ago. Vegeta was only 5 years old at that time, but he had already slaughtered tens of millions of lives on a planet. Is the Galactic Patrol crazy? They actually asked him for help. King Kai of the North shook his head. In his mind, the Saiyans had a very low reputation, so when he learned that planet Vegeta was destroyed by a meteorite, he was happy for a long time. But unexpectedly, more than 10 years later, another Saiyan appeared. Considering that Darles, who planted the spirit tree this time, was also a Saiyan, King Kai of the North couldn't help but shake his head. As expected, wherever there are Saiyans, there will be disasters. At this time, Jake, who was completely unaware that he was being observed, was staring at the two troublesome women in front of him with a speechless face. Come on, Jack. Use all your strength. It's not about posing, it's about increasing your strength. Do you understand strength? Put your energy gun back. Just use your own strength. Jake, who originally loved posing, now completely lost interest in posing. He looked at the two of them with helplessness. Miss Bulma, what on earth are you doing? Nothing, I just want you to help test my combat power detector, Bulma said as she flipped the switch on the detector on her face. Combat power detector? You're kidding, isn't that the combat power detector of Frieza's army? Jack said with a look of disbelief. Wrong, this is a combat power detector that I adjusted myself. It is more accurate than the combat power detector and can judge the strength more accurately. Jake was a little curious. Is that so? Then what is my strength? Bulma looked at her sister. Sister, what's the reading on your side? Combat power 3040. Huh? So low. How come my combat power is so low? No way. Tiz put down her combat power detector and looked at Bulma in surprise. Didn't you say that the combat power detector is more accurate? Why is it that your combat power index is higher on Jake's side? Because I am a super elite. Jake posed again. Bah, you have nothing to be proud of. Vegeta's combat power is 14. Tiz stuck out her tongue. Huh? 14? Jake was so shocked that he almost turned into a fossil. How strange. Is there something wrong with my formula? Bulma took off the detector and couldn't understand why the combat power measured by Jack was so much higher than that measured by the combat power detector. Vegeta, who had been watching coldly, suddenly explained, Your formula should be fine. This alien can't use Kai, but his strength and speed are very high. Huh? You figured it out? Jake was slightly surprised. Vegeta turned his head away with disdain. In his memory, there is a scene of a battle between Jake from another world and the soldiers of Frieza's legion. Although Jake in the scene cannot even release energy waves, he can easily kill the middle and lower level soldiers of Frieza's legion. The race this guy belongs to cannot use energy and has super strong physical fitness, especially those salty eyes, which have amazing dynamic vision. No wonder Bulma's combat power detector rated his combat power as more than 10,000. It's not my fault. Then I feel relieved. Bulma breathed a sigh of relief. I feel relieved too. Jack imitated Bulma and breathed a sigh of relief. Vegeta's fighting power is 10 times higher than his, so this mission is a sure thing. However, Jack didn't know that in addition to the Darius pirates, another force was involved in this mission because of the helpers he found. On the planet Baz, shortly after Jake left, a force that Baz dared not to offend landed on the planet. A handsome alien with dark green hair broke into the office of the captain of the Baz Star Guard with a frosty face. I'm Sabo, a subordinate of King Frieza. I heard that Dodoria died on your planet. What happened? Chapter 70 Spirit Tree. Sabo had the look of a gentle gentleman, but the cold light in his eyes made the captain of the security team on the opposite side feel uneasy. Mr. Sabo, it's none of our business. We don't know who killed Mr. Dodoria, but we have handed the matter over to the Galactic Patrol to assist in the investigation. As soon as we have any news, we will notify you immediately. After hearing this, Sabo snorted coldly. King Frieza is very angry about Dodoria's death, but if he knew that you actually wanted the Galactic Patrol to be in charge of our Frieza Corps, he would probably be even angrier. Ah, the captain of the security team was about to cry. Then what should we do? Because of your inadequate management, our Frieza army suffered losses. Shouldn't you compensate us for this money? The captain of the security team quickly said, I'm sorry, this is our fault. We will compensate you. Very good, Sabo nodded with satisfaction. After leaving some people behind to receive compensation, Sabo took his own troops to pursue along the clues provided by Baz Star. Although they are Frieza's left and right guards, Sabo is different from Ginyu and has his own special forces. However, this unit usually serves as Frieza's direct subordinate and takes orders directly from King Frieza, so they rarely act alone. Lord Sabo, should we report Mr. Dodoria's matter to King Frieza? One of Sabo's subordinates asked. Sabo shook his head, not for now. King Frieza has had enough troubles lately. Don't alarm him again. Are you talking about Slug? Yes. Sabo's eyes narrowed slightly. Recently, Slug has been treating King Frieza less and less seriously. He has already taken several of the planets we were targeting. The king is currently formulating a countermeasure, so there is no need to trouble him. Have the technical department quickly track the flight path of that Galactic Patrolman. Once we follow this Patrolman to find the murderer who killed Dodoria, I will personally kill him. Okay, I'll make arrangements right away. The subordinate responded and immediately started to make arrangements. Not long after, the man came back again. Sir, we have tracked the trajectory of the Galactic Patrol spacecraft. The technical department has determined that his target should be the planet Ikonda. It seems our Galactic Patrol has found the target. They are indeed the Galactic Patrol. Speed up all ships. We must not let the murder fall into the hands of the Galactic Patrol. Following Sabo's orders, this fleet, which was equipped with Frieza's most advanced disc-shaped spacecraft as its mothership, quickly crossed the void and continued to approach Vegeta and the others. But Sabo didn't know that in his plan of stalking the cicada while the Oriole was waiting behind, he was actually the weakest cicada. 3 days later, Vegeta and his crew's spaceship were approaching planet Ikonda. From a distance, Ikonda is a red planet, just like Mars in the solar system. Look, what is that? When the spacecraft approached Iconda, Ties suddenly pointed at a corner of the planet and exclaimed. In the direction she pointed, everyone saw a high, umbrella-shaped object. That's the spirit tree. Jake struck a battle pose and made his judgment. Impossible. There are such huge plants in the world. The size of Iconda is slightly larger than the Earth, but the giant trees have now completely occupied a quarter of the planet's surface. Just a rough calculation made Bulma sigh. It looks so huge from the universe. If it lands on the ground, I'm afraid that except for the front and back, the giant tree can be seen in every corner of the planet. Vegeta sensed the atmosphere on the planet and judged. The tree has grown so big. It seems that the natives of this planet are doomed. In his perception, the entire planet has now almost become a dead star, and the only breaths that can be felt on the planet are probably only a few tens of thousands. The most powerful aura in this aura is naturally the spirit tree. MS. Bulma, hurry up and use your detectors to check. If the Darles pirates have already escaped, then our trip would have been in vain. Bulma and Ties immediately turned on the detectors on their faces. Accompanied by a series of electronic beeps, Ties was the first to see the result. The remaining life forms on the planet seem to be near the trunk of the spirit tree. Most of them have a combat power of about 4,000. In addition, there are 6 powerful life forms, and the combat power of one of them is Ties was stunned in the middle of her speech. She looked again, her eyes full of disbelief. There are actually 30. I just remembered that I have an appointment with my girlfriend, so I'll postpone this mission. Jack turned around and tried to leave, but was grabbed by Bulma. Don't panic, Jake. That guy's combat power is obviously fake. The combat power I saw here is only 15. 15? That's more than Vegeta. Let me go, my girlfriend is really waiting for me. Vegeta snorted coldly on the side, thinking that this galactic patrolman was simply a clown. His combat power is only 15, but his real strength is far beyond this. What is there to be afraid of? Just as Bulma was holding onto Jack, her combat power detector suddenly responded again. Huh? It seems like there are people coming behind us. There are so many life forms, and the one with the highest combat power is 2. Ties turned her face toward the back of the spacecraft. I saw it too. Jack, are those your teammates here? More than 100 life forms are reacting, and the highest one has a combat power of 2. Jack was stunned. Teammate, we, the Galactic Patrol, only have less than 100 people in total. It's Frieza's army. Vegeta's voice suddenly rang out. A faint smile appeared on his face. Through his practice on Earth, his skills in sensing and applying Kai have surpassed those of his previous life. In the original world, Sun Wukong, who mastered instant teleportation, could sense the distant Kai across dozens or even hundreds of galaxies. Although he has not yet reached the level of Sun Wukong, he can already sense the breath of almost all creatures in the same galaxy. The group of people approaching from a distance had already entered his perception range. One of the auras was extremely familiar to Vegeta, and he recognized it almost immediately. It's Frieza's right-hand man, Sabo and his direct troops. Sabo, we're done. Jack, who originally wanted to escape, immediately gave up the idea and held his head in despair. He had also heard of Sabo's name and knew that he was a very scary guy around Frieza. And he was also very clear that Sabo's arrival was definitely not to support them. They are doomed now. With the extremely powerful Darles in front of them and Sabo's pursuers behind them, they are truly stuck with no way out. Chapter 71 Darles and Ash 039 Ambition. Mr. Vegeta, you can definitely handle Sabo, right? Jack had no choice but to place all his hopes on Vegeta. Vegeta shook his head. I don't have the ability to fight in space yet. Bulma, let the spaceship land. Let's see who Sabo and the others are targeting first. After hearing this, Jack's expression froze and he couldn't help but yell, but Darles and the others are still on the ground. What if they all come to attack us? Vegeta said indifferently, then kill them all. As expected, Saiyans are all stubborn and unreasonable guys. Jack was so frustrated that he sat down on the ground. He can only pray now, hoping that Vegeta is really the legendary Super Saiyan. At this moment, on the planet Ikonda, a final world-destroying battle has begun. The only remaining Ikonda people are launching a final charge towards the spirit tree in order to save their world. The Ikonda are a race that is just as warlike as the Saiyans. They have mastered cutting-edge silicon-based technology and can transform their bodies into combat weapons. At the same time, due to the nature of silicon-based life, they have powerful reproductive capabilities that far exceed those of carbon-based life. Therefore, war has always been a main theme in their culture. On this planet, new wars could break out at any moment, and the Ikonda people on the entire planet could get into various conflicts at any time because of a trivial matter. But now, the Ikonda people have truly realized the horror of war. Under the absorption of the spirit tree, a large amount of life force on the planet Ikonda was absorbed. The vigorous vitality of the planet began to weaken rapidly, and even the life forms on the planet were affected. In just a few months, the population of the Ikonda star dropped by 90%. After discovering the culprit of everything, the remaining 10% began to launch a final war against the spirit tree, trying to destroy this demon that devoured the planet. However, in front of them, 6 demons from outer space transformed into a wall of size, shattering the Ikonda people's dream of saving the world. After several attacks, there were less than 10,000 Ikonda warriors left. But they did not retreat, because they knew they had no way out. Ikonda. Under the spirit tree, the last Ikonda alien flew out shouting and attacked the enemy in front of him. Compared to these tens of thousands of soldiers, they only have 6 enemies boring. Darles, who looks almost exactly like Sun Wukong, stood on a tree branch with a cold look on his face. There are only less than 10,000 people, so he doesn't need to take action personally. 5 aliens with different appearances stood in front of Darles. Seeing the Ikonda alien almost rushing towards them, the 5 of them immediately used their own methods and emitted Qigong waves. These Qigong waves may seem ordinary, but their power is something that the Ikonda people cannot resist. Boom, boom, boom. An explosion sounded, and the sky in front of the 5 people turned into a sea of fire. In one attack, 3,000 Ikonda people were reduced to ashes. The remaining Ikonda people, who had already forgotten about life and death, could not help but move away from each other and dared not gather together again. Kakao, look at these Ikonda people. If it weren't for me, you would be almost the same as them, right? Darles smiled and joked to the weirdest-looking one among his 5 subordinates. This subordinate named Kakao is half mechanical and half living being, and the one who transformed his body was none other than the Ikonda alien. It was also at his suggestion that Darles chose the planet Ikonda as the site for planting the spirit tree. Kakao looked at Darles silently, but a brain wave sounded in his mind. Master Darles is right. The battle continues, but the outcome is already decided. According to Bulma's combat power system, the average combat power of the Ikonda people is actually 1,500. Even if we use the combat power system, it is only 3,000. However, the average combat strength of the 5 subordinates of Darles facing them was as high as 1. As for the most powerful Darles, his combat power is as high as 15. Almost 100 times that of a single warrior. So soon, the last Ikonda alien fell down in reluctance. Before he died, the Ikonda alien stretched his hand toward the sky, grabbed the white satellite of Ikonda, and then took his last breath ended. Darles licked his lips and looked at the spirit tree above his head with ferocious eyes. Under the huge tree canopy, you can vaguely see that some branches are already laden with fruits. Those are the fruits of the spirit tree. Eating one can greatly improve your strength. It's just that the fruits of these spiritual trees are not yet ripe. The life force on the planet Ikonda is truly astonishing. These fruits will not ripen until the last bit of life force is completely drained. Almost there. It will be ripe soon. Once I eat these fruits, I won't even take Frieza seriously. Dale's ambition is gradually expanding. Back then, when planet Vegeta was destroyed, Dales happened not to be on planet Vegeta, so he escaped. Although Frieza later sent his men to wipe out the Saiyans who were wandering outside, Darius escaped due to various coincidences. At that time, Darles was a low-level soldier and was in constant fear all day long, but the god of luck seemed to always favor him. One day, Darles accidentally obtained a magical spirit tree fruit on a deserted planet. After eating it, Darles' strength began to surge, which made him ecstatic. After discovering the secret of the spirit tree, Darles launched a counterattack. While relying on the fruit to become a Saiyan warrior who surpassed the elite warriors, he also recruited 5 subordinates to form the Darles Pirates. At this point, Darles' dormant ambition was fully aroused. He began to fantasize about relying on the power of the fruit of the spirit tree to become the emperor of the universe, surpassing Frieza. And this day doesn't seem to be far away anymore. Suddenly, the combat power detector next to Darles' ear emitted a series of beep-beep electronic sounds, attracting his attention. Somebody is coming. Who? Darles knocked on the detector next to his ear, only to find that the data just detected had disappeared again. Hey, my detector seemed to have malfunctioned just now. I actually saw someone entering the Iconda planet. What about you? Dale's 5 subordinates immediately operated the detector. Soon, a large amount of energy reactions appeared in the detectors of the 5 people, and the source of the signal is in the space above their heads. Lord Darles, someone is really coming. I saw. At this moment, a reaction also appeared in Dale's detector. About 100 energy signals are entering the planet. A few seconds later, a fleet appeared before their eyes. Seeing the model of the fleet's spaceship, Darles showed a faint smile on his face. Huh, they're from Frieza's army? The most powerful ones are only 2? Boss, it looks like we are going to have fun again. A subordinate named Days on the left of Darles licked his lips and said, Yeah, judging from his fighting power, it should be the guy named Sabo beside Frieza, right? I'll leave those small fry to you. I'll take care of him. Hey, 5 of Darles's men laughed hideously at the same time. The current character's combat power. The value in brackets is the combat power. The ratio of combat power to combat power is made up by the author. It is just used to illustrate that some people's combat power is relatively weak. Please don't take it seriously. Darles. 1530 Darles 5 subordinates, average 1-3 Sop, 2-2 Vegeta, 15-5. Chapter 72, Darles Pirates vs. Sabo Guards. Dales didn't know that while they were focusing all their attention on Sabo, Vegeta and the others had already landed safely on the surface of the planet. Inside the spaceship, Jake looked into the distance with a nervous look on his face. Relying on his superhuman vision, he has seen figures flying out of Frieza's spaceship and confronting Darius and his gang. Both Darius' group and Frieza's army were carrying combat power detectors. If they notice us and the 2 groups attack at the same time, we will be doomed. Bulma, is your jammer actually working? How many times have you asked? If it didn't work, we would have been discovered long ago, right? As Bulma answered, she temporarily modified 2 long-range optical telescopes for her own use, intending to use them to observe the battle in the distance. As for Jack's worries, Bulma didn't care at all. Ever since obtaining the combat power detector from Frieza's army, Bulma has figured out the principle of this detector, and installed jamming devices on their spacecraft. That's why when they landed just now, Darles suddenly lost track of Bulma and the others. Seeing that Bulma was so confident, Jack finally breathed a sigh of relief. But he suddenly discovered that Vegeta had flown outside at some point, and was standing with his arms folded across his chest, looking into the distance. Bulma, is it okay for Vegeta to be like that? He's outside the spaceship, so how can the jammer still be effective? It's okay. Vegeta can suppress his own energy. Those people will just treat him as an animal on the planet. Can this be done? Jack looked at Vegeta outside in disbelief, but his heart was filled with fear. Amazing combat power and skillful control of energy. What should I say? Is Vegeta worthy of being the prince of the Saiyans? Or maybe he is really the legendary Super Saiyan? He now feels extremely fortunate for his decision. I'm glad that I didn't choose to attack Vegeta when I was on Earth, otherwise I would have died long ago. At this time, Thais leaned against the porthole, holding her cheeks with her hands and looking at Vegeta. By the way, Vegeta should be strong enough to take out those enemies, right? Then why is he just watching now? Jack immediately retorted on behalf of Vegeta. Thais, you idiot. There are 3 forces on this planet now. Vegeta's approach is the smartest. Anyway, the Frieza army and the Darles pirates are irreconcilable. Why not let them kill each other for a while? Casey looked at Jake and complained, Jake, you are just scared, right? I'm not. I didn't. Stop talking nonsense. While the spaceship was in a commotion, Vegeta outside said calmly, Darles, let me see what effect the spirit tree fruit has under the spirit tree. Sabo had already left the spaceship with his men. Looking at the huge tree that broke through the sky in front of him, Sabo was also shocked. What the hell is this? Where's the Galactic Patrolman? Sabo's subordinates reported, Lord Sabo, the Galactic Patrol's signal has disappeared. In addition, our communication with the headquarters has been interrupted since a while ago. Someone is interfering with us. What? Sabo frowned. He felt as if he had fallen into some trick. Everything in front of me reveals a sense of weirdness. A barren planet, huge trees, and the disappearing Galactic Patrol. Could it be that all this was actually a trap set for him by someone? Retreat. Leave here first. Just when Sabo gave the order to retreat and was about to leave the planet to make other plans, a wave of energy suddenly shot out from under the huge tree. In the blink of an eye, a wave of white energy engulfed Sabo's mothership. Boom sound. A huge fireball suddenly lit up in the sky. Sabo's spaceship was directly blown into pieces and fragments fell from the sky. How dare you attack Lord Sabo's spaceship? Several of Sabo's men were furious and looked in the direction where the energy wave had just exploded. Sabo had a sinister look on his face, with cold light flashing in his eyes. Go and see. Who dares to attack us? Don't look anymore, we are the ones who attacked you. Suddenly, 6 figures appeared in front of Sabo and others sneering. Sabo's expression suddenly became stunned. You the Darles pirates? It's you. You're the ones who disrupted our communications with the headquarters, right? Yes, although it's easy to kill you, we still have to be careful of Frieza. Darles sneered. It's easy to kill us. Ridiculous. You're a Saiyan. I can kill you with one hand. Seriously? You haven't used the detector to look at us yet. Otherwise, why would you say such nonsense? He's just a Saiyan. Do you still need a detector? Sabo was too disdainful to take out the detector, but one of his subordinates used the detector to look at the 6 people in front of him, and then screamed because the detector suddenly expanded. Lord Sabo, their combat power is actually over 2. Impossible. Is your detector malfunctioning? Sabo took out his detector with a look of disbelief, but saw the same result. Except for Darles, the combat effectiveness of his 5 subordinates is around 2. When the detector locked onto Darles, it exploded because the target's energy was too huge. Impossible. Our detector must have been interfered with. These guys can interfere with our communication with the headquarters, so they can naturally interfere with energy detection. Confirm it with your own eyes if it's true. Darles pirates, attack. As he spoke, Darles rushed out first and instantly arrived in front of Sabo. And his 5 subordinates attacked Sabo's men. Rumble. Right next to the huge spirit tree, a new battle began again. Compared to the final counterattack by the Iconda people, this battle is no longer one-sided, but it is still far from being an evenly matched battle. Sabo's subordinates only held out a little longer than the Iconda people. As Frieza's most trusted right-hand man, Sabo has many intermediate warriors under his command with a combat power of over 10,000. Under normal circumstances, these mid-level fighters can be considered strong men. But the 5 subordinates of Darles in front of them were much stronger than them. Chapter 73. The new Emperor of the Universe is me, Darles. Days. One of Darles's subordinates wears a necklace and sparkling earrings. He looks lazy on weekdays but is extremely brave in battle. His attack was like a machine gun, with countless air bullets ejected, sweeping across a large area. All of Frieza's soldiers who were hit died on the spot and fell from the sky to the ground. At a distance was Kakao, Darius' subordinate. Kakao has undergone mechanized transformation by the Iconda people. His entire body is covered with metal armor. The nozzles under the armor can allow him to move at high speeds or transform into high-energy laser cannons. With his full firepower, Sabo's men had no chance of resistance at all. They were either killed by Kakao's high-speed collision or by hedgehog-like laser cannons piercing their bodies. The brothers Rez and Lakasa are the 2 weakest-looking warriors under Darles. But these 2 men were extremely fast, and as twins they cooperated extremely well. Under their clever tactics, Sabo's subordinates were like headless flies, falling one after another as they played around. As for the strong man Almond, his attack made Sabo's men feel most desperate. No matter what the attack was, Almond did not dodge or evade. But these real hits couldn't even knock off a hair of Almond's. Almond was like a god of war, charging through the crowd without any skills. With just simple physical collisions, he killed several of Sabo's most powerful subordinates. On the other hand, Sabo's situation was not much better than that of his subordinates. Under Dale's attack, Sabo was hit repeatedly and his combat suit was torn in many places. However, what made Sabo so angry was that Darles on the opposite side avoided his vital points every time he attacked, and only attacked the parts that would not be fatal. Are you kidding me? Darles stopped and said with a disdainful smile, "You just realized it now, mister." Sabo. Damn it. No wonder you were able to kill Dodoria. Your strength is nothing like that of a Saiyan. Dodoria? Who? Sabo ignored Darius' words. He was now convinced that it was Darius who killed Dodoria. Otherwise, it would not have been possible for Dodoria, whose strength was comparable to his before his transformation, to die so miserably. Haha. Now I finally understand why King Frieza wanted to exterminate you Saiyans. Your potential is indeed terrifying. In that case, I will be serious too. Dale sneered, serious? Do you have hidden strength? Sabo said no more, but suddenly shouted loudly. The next moment, his body expanded rapidly and his muscles became much larger in an instant. The originally handsome face instantly turned into something like an ugly toad. At the same time, Sabo's combat power directly increased to 3. Ha! Shangbo burst out with arrogance, flew up, and punched Darles in the face. This punch seemed to come as a surprise, and Darles didn't avoid it and was hit hard. However, Sabo saw that Darles, who was under his fist, was actually laughing. What happened? Sabo frowned and threw another punch, but Darles still didn't move and took the punch hard. Darius yawned. Are you done? If you are, it's my turn. What? Just as Sabo was about to pull his fist back, a hand pierced through his chest and came out from behind him. And this hand belongs to Darles. Sabo, an elite warrior, is only this powerful now. Today, I am so powerful. No. Sabo quickly stepped back, but at this moment, a white light appeared in Darles' hand. Boom! Exclamation! Sabo's body expanded rapidly and turned into ashes in the violent explosion. Saw Lord Sabo. In the sky, those surviving subordinates of Sabo saw with their own eyes that their high and mighty Lord Sabo actually died at the hands of a Saiyan, and they were all dumbfounded. Fear spread rapidly in their hearts and finally exploded in a roar. Lord Sabo is dead. Following that shout, the remaining soldiers began to flee in all directions. But how could Darles' men let them go so easily? Before, they didn't use their full strength just for fun. Seeing that the battle was about to come to an end, the 5 soldiers no longer held back. They transformed themselves into ferocious beasts and turned the remaining warriors into ashes one by one. Unconsciously, we have become so powerful. Yes, this is all thanks to the opportunity given to us by Lord Darles. After the battle, Cacao and the other 5 returned to Darles. Compared with the battle with the Ikonda people, the battle just now made them more aware of their own strength. Even the elite warriors of the once dreaded Frieza army were no match for them. This was something they could never have imagined in the past. Are you so easily satisfied? Don't forget, after we eat the fruit of the spirit tree of this planet, we will become even more powerful. By then, even Frieza will not be our opponent. Darles looked at his subordinates and sneered. That's right. You are right, sir. Everyone immediately agreed. Let's go. The fruit of the spirit tree should be ripe. After we eat it, we will start attacking Frieza's territory. The new emperor of the universe is me, Darius. Clap, clap, clap. Just then, everyone suddenly heard applause. This is the first time I've seen someone as arrogant as you. A sense of crisis suddenly aroused Darles's nerves. His eyes moved quickly, finally stopping on a branch of a spirit tree. A figure suddenly escaped the detection of Darles and the others and came to the spirit tree. Who? Darles's face turned grim. He didn't expect that he would be so careless and let someone get close to the spirit tree unknowingly. They have been planting the spirit tree for many days, and the fruits are about to mature. How can they tolerate anyone disrupting the situation? The figure opposite did not answer his question. Darles' face turned cold. He opened the detector and took a look, but was stunned. The combat power of the figure on the opposite side is only 5. The others also used the detectors at this time. Seeing the opponent's combat power was so low, the strong man Almond laughed. A scum whose combat power is only 5. Lord Darles, I will kill this fly. After saying that, Almond flew towards the figure without waiting for Darles' permission and many more. Darles reached out to ask the other person to come back, but it was too late. Before Almond could get close, there was a loud bang and he flew back as if he was hit by a train. His body finally buried deep in the ground, with only his 2 legs exposed and trembling a few times. Then, Almond's life signal disappeared. Chapter 74 False Power. What? Seeing Almond's life signal disappear, everyone including Darles looked incredulous. This was the first time they had suffered a loss since the 6 of them formed the Darius Pirates. That's impossible. That kid's combat power is only 5. Why did Almond lose? Rez's eyes flickered, and he said in a deep voice, I heard that there are some races in the universe that can freely control the energy in their bodies. Maybe that guy is that race. The brothers Rez and La Casa were originally living fossils from an ancient cosmic race. They were resurrected because Darles used the juice of the spirit tree. In the Darius Pirates, the 2 of them are considered to be the most knowledgeable members. After hearing his words, everyone finally understood what was going on. Darles yelled at the figure at the top of his voice, You bastard. If you have the guts to attack my men, show me your face. A word came from the figure. Dales, you're a scion, but you still don't recognize me. Okay. Dales was slightly stunned. He took off the detector, widened his eyes, slowly moved his position, and looked at the figure carefully. As he moved, the light and shadow changed, and the figure that was originally hiding in the shadows gradually became clear to him immediately. King Vegeta. No, he should be dead. Are you Prince Vegeta? Did you finally recognize me? Vegeta sneered disdainfully and looked at Darles with disgust in his eyes. Picture it's so similar. In Vegeta's eyes, Darles in front of him was exactly the same as Kakarot. What disgusted him even more was that the other person's expression was exactly the same as Kakarot, who was infected by the evil spirit of Majin Buu and thus regained his Saiyan nature. If he didn't know for sure that he was the Saiyan Darius, Vegeta would really think that it was Kakarot from his own world who had traveled through time. Just as thousands of thoughts flashed through Vegeta's mind, Darles also had a complicated expression. After all, he was once a low-level warrior among the Saiyans. Even after so many years, when he suddenly saw the royal family among the Saiyans, an inexplicable sense of fear arose from the bottom of his heart. Do not. So what if they are royals? I am the man who will become the emperor of the universe, Darles. What? Suddenly, all the energy in Darles' body exploded, creating a hurricane around him out of thin air. Feeling his current combat power of 30, Darles suppressed his fear of the royal family and pointed at Vegeta and said, Prince Vegeta, tell me why you are here. Are you interested in my fruit? The fruit of the spirit tree. Indeed, it has enabled a low-level warrior like you to reach your current strength. I have no choice but to be interested. Vegeta raised his head with interest, looking at the green fruit hanging on a branch not far away. Darles, a low-level warrior, saw such a significant improvement in strength after eating the fruit. He really wanted to know what changes would happen if he ate it. But before that, Vegeta looked down at Darius and sneered. The reason I came here this time is actually because of the Galactic Patrol. Darius, just follow me obediently, and I will spare your life because we are both Saiyans. When will the proud Saiyan Prince cooperate with the Galactic Patrol? Darles said with a wicked smile. Has it been because of the destruction of planet Vegeta that you have become corrupted? It seems that you refuse. That's the best. In fact, I still want to see you dead. Vegeta assumed a fighting stance with a calm expression. Darles gritted his teeth and said, Prince Vegeta, you are indeed as arrogant as the rumors say. Perhaps in your eyes, low-level warriors like us who are thrown away after use are nothing but garbage. You can kill us if you want. But things are different now. Because my combat power is 30. Boom! The air beneath Darles' feet suddenly exploded, and then the figure disappeared from the spot. Vegeta's eyes narrowed and he looked behind him. A fierce murderous aura was already rushing towards his back. Boom! Darles suddenly appeared behind Vegeta and punched him hard. Vegeta was immediately knocked off the spirit tree, flying straight to the ground, crashing through a series of ruins. Long life Lord Darles! When Days and others saw that Darles won the battle with one strike, they all cheered. But there was no excitement on Darles' face. His serious eyes were fixed on the ground. Boom! Suddenly, the detectors on everyone's faces read an astonishing amount of energy. The energy rose rapidly and soon exceeded the limit of the detector's ability to read data. Clap, clap, clap. The next moment, the combat power detectors on the 5 people's faces all exploded. The 5 subordinates who were cheering just now suddenly became silent, because before the detector exploded, they saw a shocking data master. Darles Vegeta's fighting power just now. I saw it. This guy can really manipulate his own energy. Darles' eyes were solemn. At the last moment when the detector exploded, he saw that Vegeta's combat power data had exceeded 10. Sure enough, Vegeta, whose body was wrapped in white flames, slowly floated into the air. There were no injuries on his face. Just as I guessed, Darles, compared to that man, you are a waste. The punch from Darles just now made Vegeta see through his true colors. Even though Darles' apparent combat power is 30, his body is actually unable to absorb that much energy. Most of the energy from the fruit of the spirit tree dissipated in his body. Although it made Darles look like his fighting power had improved a lot for a while, in reality he was unable to exert the corresponding strength at all. No wonder Bulma's combat power detector directly cut his 30 combat power data in half. Come again. Vegeta hooked his finger at Darius. This action directly ignited Darles' anger. With a bang, white flames enveloped Darles' entire body. Vegeta smiled coldly and also burst out with all his strength. The next moment, Darles' fist was already in front of Vegeta. But this time, Vegeta easily blocked it and then he punched back, causing Darles' nose to bleed. With Darles' nose bleeding, the battle between the two officially began. This time Vegeta did not hold back. His body turned into a blurry light and shadow and rushed towards Darles at an astonishing speed. Darles kept fighting back with his fists, but Vegeta saw through all his moves and he was completely unable to keep up with his speed. Instead, Vegeta's fists fell on Darles like raindrops, and each blow was accurate and powerful. Darles was beaten back repeatedly, his body shaking constantly under Vegeta's continuous attacks. Every time he was hit, there was a dull thud. How could that be? Why? Vegeta, are you more powerful than me? During the fierce battle, Darles found himself completely overwhelmed by Vegeta and asked unwillingly, "No, if we just talk about combat capability, you should be better than me, right? Then why is this happening?" Darius tried to fight back again. He swung his huge fist, trying to overpower Vegeta with his strength. However, Vegeta easily dodged Darius' attack again. Because your power is simply a false power. With a precise uppercut, Vegeta knocked Darles flying into the air. Chapter 75 Super Darles. Darles flew into the air and had to use all his strength to barely control his body. But at this time, Vegeta had already jumped high and met Darles in the air, then with a powerful kick, knocked Darles down from the air again. Darles fell heavily to the ground, creating a huge hole in the ground. He struggled to stand up, but found that his body was somewhat out of control. After just a brief confrontation, he suffered unbearable injuries. Vegeta slowly landed in front of him, his eyes full of the confidence and pride of a winner. "Is this your limit? I had some expectations for you, but it seems you are even worse than I thought." Hearing his words, Darles, who was almost unable to stand, gasped for breath and thought unwillingly, "Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Why am I still no match for Vegeta even though my fighting ability is obviously better than Vegeta's? It must be the fruit of the spirit tree. I must not have eaten enough." Darles turned his gaze to Days and others who were stunned by the situation and came to their side. "Des, Kakao, Res, Lakasai, attack me." "But Lord Darles, there is a huge gap between us and him. Do you want us to die?" Contrary to Darles' expectation, Days did not agree immediately, but instead refuted himself. Seeing that his subordinate, who had always been loyal to him, behaved like this, Darles wanted to kill him with one punch. But he also knew that now was not the right time, so he had to speak out. "I don't need you to kill him. Just buy me some time. The fruits of the spirit tree should be ripe. As long as I eat more fruits, I will definitely be able to defeat Vegeta." Daisy and the others looked at each other but remained silent. Darles clenched his fists and suppressed the anger in his heart. "Don't have any illusions. If we don't defeat Vegeta, all of you will die. Now our only hope of survival is for me to eat the fruit of the spirit tree. We got it." Daisy and the others looked at each other again, and this time they finally moved. Although they didn't discuss it before, the four of them cooperated tacitly and flew in 4 directions respectively, and then simultaneously fired Kigong bombs at Vegeta. Boom! 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 Countless Kigong bullets pierced through the air and hit Vegeta with unstoppable force. All of a sudden, countless dazzling spots rose in the sky, and the dim sky was illuminated at this moment as bright as day. "The opportunity has come." Darles' eyes lit up and he immediately flew at full speed towards the spirit tree. He has only one goal, and that is the mature fruit of the spirit tree. While waiting for the fruits of the spirit tree to ripen, Darles had already memorized the locations of all the fruits on the tree. "Just eat one more. Just one more. Kakao, what are you doing?" Suddenly, Darles heard a cry of surprise behind him. He turned around subconsciously and saw that Kakao, his once trusted subordinate, suddenly abandoned his 3 teammates who were still attacking Vegeta and flew into space without looking back. Kakao has undergone mechanized transformation and can enter and exit the atmosphere freely, and can even travel across the stars alone. But Darles didn't expect that this guy would use his ability here. Damn Kakao! Darles cursed, but had no time to care about his subordinates who fled from the battlefield. I see. Darles' eyes lit up. On a branch several kilometers above his head, a ripe spirit tree fruit was already faintly visible. Oops. Not good. In the distance, Jake, who had been watching the battle, suddenly exclaimed, Dales wants to eat the fruit of the spirit tree. Vegeta must stop him. It's okay. Vegeta has already killed 3 of Darles' men. Although Bulma and Tais did not have the abnormal eyesight of Gak, they could still see the situation at the scene with the help of a device that looked like an astronomical telescope. Right in front of the device camera, the 2 had seen Vegeta kill 3 of Darles' men and noticed Darles' actions. In an instant, Vegeta turned into a meteor, arrived in front of Darles, and was the first to come to the fruit of the spirit tree and picked it with one hand. Damn Kakao! Dales was filled with despair, thinking that if Kakao had not deserted, he might have obtained the fruit of the spirit tree even if he had delayed Vegeta for just 1 more second. But now it's all over. Dale's heart was filled with resentment. The fruits of the spirit tree were clearly ripe. If he could eat just 1 more, he would have invincible power. Not reconciled. I cannot be reconciled. Ended. Tais, who was in the distance, made the conclusion. Bulma also looked relieved. Yes, it seems that there is nothing wrong with my combat power evaluation system. The real strength of this Darles is indeed not that good. Tais looked at Jake and shouted to him, Jake, if you want to capture Darles alive, go and catch him quickly. Jack didn't respond to Tais, but suddenly said with a serious look, what is Vegeta going to do? Ugh. Tais and Bulma hurriedly moved towards the observation device again. In the camera, Vegeta actually came to Darles with the spirit tree fruit, and stretched out his hand, as if he wanted to hand the spirit tree fruit to Darles. Bulma, does Vegeta want to give the fruit to Darius? I don't know either. What on earth does this guy want to do? Bulma rushed to then panic and directly controlled the spaceship to fly towards the spirit tree. It wasn't just Bulma and the others who couldn't understand the situation. Even King Kai, who was far away on King Kai's planet and had been keeping an eye on the spirit tree, couldn't understand it. Damn Vegeta. Isn't he too arrogant? Hasn't he ever thought about what to do if he can't beat Darius? Unable to bear it any longer, King Kai of the North decided to make an exception and contact Vegeta, a mortal. After all, this is the best chance to end the spiritual tree crisis right now. If this opportunity is missed, almost no one will be able to stop Darles in the future. Then, a long voice immediately sounded in Vegeta's ears. Vegeta. Vegeta. I am King Kai, who governs the entire northern galaxy. I am speaking to you through my mind now. King of the North. Vegeta was stunned. He didn't expect that he would be in contact with King Kai at this time. He then calmly asked, I wonder what King Kai wants from me. Haha, Prince of the Saiyans, I've been paying attention to you since the beginning when you and Darles and the others started. The spirit tree is a very scary thing. Now that you have a chance to destroy it, don't make things complicated. Kill Darles quickly and destroy the spirit tree. As long as you agree, I will reward you in the name of King Kai. Okay, I'll take note of that. We'll talk later. At the same time, Darles looked at Vegeta in shock. He said in disbelief, Vegeta, what did you just say? You want to give me the fruit of the spirit tree. That's right. Didn't you say that you can defeat me if you eat the fruit? I want to see how much one fruit can make you grow. You won't regret it. Dales really wanted to snatch the fruit immediately, but he didn't dare to act rashly for fear that Vegeta was just playing a trick on him. Take it. I won't be satisfied even if I kill a weak opponent like you. Vegeta. At this moment, Bulma's voice suddenly sounded in the distance. Bulma was seen flying over in the arms of Jack, followed by Tais, who was operating the spaceship. Vegeta, you idiot. Get rid of him quickly. King Kai of the North on King Kai's planet is going crazy. How arrogant is Vegeta, a Saiyan? I warned him, but he still didn't listen. Vegeta, what are you doing? Don't give him the spirit tree fruit. Bulma's loud scream came into my ears. I could hear the roar of the North King in my heart again. Vegeta curled his lips secretly, ignored them, and threw the fruit directly into Darles's hand. Eat it quickly, don't let me down. It is good. Dales looked at the purple-red fruit in his hand, put it in his mouth and took a big bite. Vegeta, you're going to regret this. Because I will be. Super Darles, Chapter 76, above 10,000. Ruin. King Kai held his head, looking helpless. The worst possible situation that could have been prevented finally happened. As expected, the Saiyans are a bunch of unreasonable idiots. I shouldn't count on them. Just when King Kai of the North was in despair, a huge aura was quietly emerging on planet Ikanda. As Darles laughed grimly, the power of the fruit of the spirit tree quickly spread throughout his body, and caused Darles' body to mutate as well. His muscles suddenly swelled and the blood vessels under his skin bulged like earthworms. At this moment, Darles' aura was completely different from before. Even Vegeta was blown back a step by the rushing and unstable aura. Is this the power of the fruit of the spirit tree? Beep, beep, beep. On the spaceship, Bulma and the others' faces changed drastically. Both Tais' combat power detector and Bulma's combat power detector detected a drastic increase in values. Bulma. The combat power of Darles on my side has exceeded 50. This is me too. His combat power is over 25. Jack stared with his salty eyes, turned around and wanted to escape to his spaceship. But he had only taken a few steps before Bulma and Tais each grabbed one of his thighs and threw him to the ground. Let me go. I'm not trying to run away, I'm going to get reinforcements. Impossible. You just want to escape. Jack, you have to protect us at this time. I regret it so much, I regret it so much. I shouldn't have trusted a Saiyan. Jack was in tears. Outside, Dale's terrifying aura had already made Vegeta feel a little suffocated. Even if Dales cannot fully control the energy of the spirit tree fruit, what he can control now is already far beyond Vegeta. However, under the pressure, Vegeta was not afraid, but smiled instead. Darles slowly approached him, with a wicked smile on his face, and said, Prince Vegeta, what are you laughing at? Are you too scared and can't control your expression? No, I'm just laughing. The effect of this spirit tree fruit is really good. After I defeat you, it will be worth eating. Eat. The corner of Darles' mouth twitched, and the expression on his face turned from sunny to cloudy. All the fruits of the spirit tree here are mine. No one can touch them. Vegeta, you can die now. In just a moment, Dales moved in front of Vegeta. This time, his speed did surpass Vegeta. Darles grabbed Vegeta's thigh with one hand and then fell down suddenly, like a meteor hitting the ground, causing a sonic boom in the surrounding air. Although Vegeta tried to break free, he found that his strength was completely surpassed and there was no way to break free. Rumble. Accompanied by a loud bang, a huge pit 1 kilometer wide appeared on the ground. Vegeta was unable to escape after all, and was smashed into the ground by Darius, with his limbs paralyzed. With just this one blow, Vegeta felt like all the bones in his body were broken. Vegeta, I will return the humiliation I just suffered to you. Darles raised his hand, spread his 5 fingers, and slapped Vegeta. In an instant, Vegeta's whole body was enveloped by a surge of energy. The chaotic energy gathered into a beam of light, and Vegeta, who was at the center of the beam, was almost torn apart by this energy. Vegeta. Bulma. You can't go out. Jack, help me hold her. There was a commotion in the spaceship. Bulma, who had just wanted to stop Jake from leaving, was now held down by Ties and Jake, who would not let her get close to the spaceship, lest Bulma get excited and drive the spaceship close to the battlefield. But at this moment, the situation on the opposite side suddenly changed. A figure passed through the air column and punched Darles directly in the face. Then, this punch was too much for Darles to block and blood spurted out of his nose. Vegeta, you're not dead yet? After Darles reacted, he immediately steadied himself and kicked Vegeta back, sending him flying. Vegeta, who was flying far away, immediately threw an energy bomb at Darles' face. Boom, boom, boom. The two Saiyans started fighting under the spirit tree. Bulma, who had been making a lot of noise just now, immediately quieted down and scanned the battlefield with her observation equipment, trying to confirm the situation. Unfortunately, the other person's movements were too fast and she couldn't even catch a glimpse of his shadow. Jack, isn't your eyesight very good? Let's see who has the upper hand now. Although Jack's fighting ability was not good, his eyesight was very good. He looked for a while and said, "No, it seems that Vegeta cannot beat Darius." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud explosion in the sky. Vegeta and Darius separated temporarily. However, just by looking at the current state of the two, Bulma and the others knew that Jack was not wrong. At this moment, Vegeta was covered in wounds and blood. On the other hand, the fruit of the spirit tree had healed Dale's previous injuries, and the battle just now did not leave any scars on his body. Darles crossed his arms, tilted his head back, and looked at Vegeta with a smug look on his face. My prince, let me guess how you feel now. Are you regretting giving me the fruit of the spirit tree? Vegeta was almost unable to maintain flying. He was gasping for breath, but his face did not show any sad or angry expression as Darles wished. On the contrary, Vegeta suddenly burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Are you going crazy out of despair? Darles frowned. Do not. Vegeta stopped laughing, but the corners of his mouth were still raised. Dales, I'm just laughing at my own good ideas. After eating the fruit of the spirit tree, you are indeed worthy of my full efforts. I haven't felt this kind of oppressive feeling of being on the verge of death for a long time. Darles stopped laughing, his eyes were cold. Go all out. You mean, you didn't use your full strength just now? Certainly, how ridiculous. Look at yourself. What strength do you have that you haven't used yet? Put aside your pride, Your Highness. You have already lost today. You have lost completely. Then open your eyes and see the limits of what I can control now. Vegeta raised the corner of his mouth and suddenly shouted loudly. All of a sudden, the energy in his body, which had been gradually weakening, erupted again as if a valve had been turned on. Vegeta's hair began to flutter, and his whole body was emitting a golden aura that was completely different from usual. On the aircraft not far away, the detectors of Bulma and Ties simultaneously emitted a series of electronic beep, beep, beep sounds, and the data began to jump rapidly. Snapped. Suddenly, Ties' detector exploded. She looked in disbelief. Because according to Bulma, her detector had been modified before and can detect a maximum combat power of less than 100 million. She couldn't help but say, Bulma, I just saw that Vegeta's combat power seemed to be over 100 million. The current character's combat power. The value in brackets is the combat power. The ratio of combat power to combat power is made up by the author. It is just used to illustrate that some people's combat power is relatively weak. Please don't take it seriously. Darles, 2755 Vegeta, 15.5. Chapter 77 Super Darius vs Super Vegeta Fake. 1 million. That's impossible. Jake was shocked. A combat power of 100 million? He had never heard of anyone in the universe with such a high combat power. However, what they didn't know was that Vegeta's combat power detected by Bulma was almost over 100 million. Combat power 90, 100 million, 150 million. The ever-increasing numbers had frightened Bulma, and Ties and Jack were also dumbfounded when they heard her counting. His combat power alone exceeds 150 million. If we evaluate it by combat power, wouldn't Vegeta's current combat power be almost over 300 million? And this is not his limit. What exactly is going on? On King Kai's planet, even the knowledgeable King Kai of the North was dumbfounded. He was completely dazed. Could it be that this Vegeta has become the legendary 300 million? 350 million? Vegeta's anger was still rising. Darles was not able to sense anger, so he was unaware of the drastic changes taking place in Vegeta's body at this moment. But he has eyes and can see the impact of Vegeta on the surrounding environment. Darles looked up and saw that a dark cloud had appeared above his head at some point, and thunder was exploding in the cloud. He looked down at his feet again, and the ground seemed to be trembling dully. On the land that had become a desert because of the spirit tree, fine sand and dust were constantly floating and dispersing. 400 million. 435 million. 460 million. When Vegeta's combat power jumped to 460 million, the number in Bulma's combat power detector finally stopped changing. 460 million combat power, this is Vegeta's current strength. If we use the combat effectiveness of Frieza's army to evaluate, then Vegeta's combat effectiveness should be close to 10 million. While his combat power has increased so greatly, Vegeta's appearance has also changed slightly. His hair was slightly purple, and the aura around him was like golden flames. The expression on his face also became cold and ruthless. Looking at the golden Vegeta in front of him, Darles' face turned pale. Although I couldn't understand it, all the signs indicated that something special seemed to have happened to Vegeta. What's going on with you? Vegeta grinned and said, Darles, haven't you heard of the legend of the Super Saiyan? Super Saiyan? Darles opened his mouth wide, somewhat incredulous. You are a Super Saiyan? Not really. Vegeta looked at his body calmly. My current state can only be considered a pseudo-Super Saiyan. I am still one step away from becoming a true Super Saiyan. But even if it's a mimicry, in your understanding of combat power, my combat power is 30 times that of before. By the way, Darles, didn't you just say that you are Super Darles? Then now I am Super Vegeta. Vegeta pointed at himself with his thumb with a confident smile on his face. What Super Vegeta? Stop bluffing. Darles rushed to Vegeta again, ready to use his fist to stop Vegeta's annoying smile. But this time, his fist was tightly clamped. How is it possible? Darles' face turned pale and he felt as if his bones were about to be broken. Vegeta may have boasted about the 30 times combat power, but this overwhelming force is real. Impossible, impossible, Darius yelled madly and hit Vegeta with his other hand. The high-speed fist broke through everything with a whistling wind. A huge force hit Darles in the face, causing him to lose consciousness for several seconds. Darles stumbled a few times in the air before he managed to stand firm. Impossible. I clearly ate the fruit of the spirit tree. Why did I lose? Darles shouted in disbelief. Vegeta looked at Darius with disdain, his eyes revealing a hint of cruelty. Do you even need to ask? The power of the spirit tree fruit is an external object after all. As a Saiyan, you only want to rely on this kind of thing to increase your strength. It's a shame for the Saiyans. Vegeta's figure flashed and suddenly appeared under Darles. He turned around and kicked Darles with his leg. The strength of the two sides is now very different, and Darles directly turned into a cannonball and flew into the sky. Vegeta's figure flashed again and appeared above his head, launching attacks one after another. Darles' body was constantly under severe attacks, and his combat suit could no longer withstand the attack and broke into small pieces. Finally, with a shrill scream, Darles fell straight to the ground. In midair, the resentment, anger, and humiliation in Darles' heart burst out all at once. Then, his sight caught sight of Bulma's spaceship below him. Darles' eyes lit up, and he summoned up his last bit of strength and rushed towards the spaceship. It's impossible to defeat Vegeta, but as long as he can capture his companions, he will have a chance to leave this planet alive. The fruits of the spirit tree are ripe. As long as he harvests the fruits of the entire planet and leaves here, one day he will be able to reach the same height as Vegeta. Dales was convinced of this. But before he could rush to the spaceship, Vegeta appeared. Vegeta stood on the spaceship and stretched out a hand to Darles, who was flying towards him. You want to touch them too? Big Bang attack. A force gushed out from the palm of Vegeta's hand. No, no. Dale's pupils suddenly contracted. He has not yet fulfilled his ambition, and he still has many fruits of the spiritual tree to eat. He has not yet become the emperor of the universe. Just as he was feeling unwilling, Darles was swallowed up by a huge golden energy bomb. The next second, a violent whirlwind swept wildly, rolling up bursts of sharp wind blades on the planet. The branches of the spirit tree swayed in the strong wind after the storm. The smoke gradually dissipated, and not even a trace of Darles was left. Great! We win! On the spaceship, Tyze jumped up excitedly. Jack breathed a sigh of relief as if he had survived a disaster. Then he asked in confusion, "Isn't Vegeta's move just now an energy bomb attack? Why is it called a Big Bang attack? Haha, maybe you think it's cooler this way?" Bulma said with a smile. On King Kai's planet, King Kai of the North also breathed a sigh of relief. Although it went through a lot of twists and turns, the Darles pirates were finally wiped out. Next, all we have to do is let the Galactic Patrol confiscate the fruits of the spirit tree and get rid of the spirit tree. The problem is Vegeta never thought that Vegeta was actually the rumored Super Saiyan. If it was him, I wonder if he could defeat the great evil Frieza. Chapter 78, Breaking Through the Bottleneck. On the destroyed planet Ikonda, Vegeta sat on the deck of the spaceship, feeling his body so weak that he could hardly move, like a dead leaf ravaged by a strong wind. His breathing was rapid and heavy. Every inhale felt like air being squeezed out from between his teeth, and every exhale was accompanied by a low groan. Even though he won the final stage easily, Vegeta was actually almost at the end of his strength. Transforming into a mimic Super Saiyan can make Vegeta temporarily feel no pain in his body, but after the transformation, the suppressed pain will come back exponentially. Vegeta's physical strength had been exhausted bit by bit in the previous battle, and his muscles felt like they were torn apart and were in unbearable pain. His consciousness began to blur, and everything in front of him became distorted and hazy. Vegeta knew that he had reached his limit and could not hold on any longer. It's almost time. Just when he was about to lose consciousness, Vegeta suddenly took out a senzu bean from his glove. Using his last bit of strength, he put the bean into his mouth, chewed it and swallowed it. The senzu beans quickly took effect, and Vegeta's body began to gradually recover. His wounds began to heal and the pain slowly subsided. His consciousness gradually became clear, and he felt that his strength was recovering little by little and becoming stronger than before. "Dales, I really want to thank you," Vegeta chuckled. Perhaps during the battle just now, others always thought that Vegeta was too arrogant, which gave Darles the opportunity to eat the fruit of the spirit tree. But in fact, all this was a torture trick carefully planned by Vegeta. With the practice in the gravity room these days, Vegeta has realized that his strength has temporarily reached a bottleneck period. Relying on Bulma's S-Cell growth agent, Vegeta had mastered the pseudo-Super Saiyan transformation a few days ago. However, the improvement of basic combat power has stagnated, and the training foundation laid in the early stage has reached its limit. In order to break this deadlock, Vegeta is eager to further train and improve himself through actual combat. Recalling his training life on Earth, Vegeta had almost never experienced a real life-and-death battle. As a Saiyan, he knew that only by struggling on the brink of life and death could he unleash his greatest potential. Therefore, in order to break through the current bottleneck. After seeing Darles, Vegeta decided to take an extreme approach. Let Darles eat the fruit of the spirit tree. His plan is to use Darles' power to create a near life and death combat environment in order to stimulate his potential and break the current bottleneck. As for whether any accidents would happen, that is simply impossible, because Vegeta still has the trump card of Mimic Super Saiyan in his hand. The final result was exactly what Vegeta had calculated. After surviving this life and death battle, he could already feel that his strength had made another leap. It shouldn't be long before he becomes a real Super Saiyan. There is no other life on the planet Ikonda except Bulma and her group. Seeing that Darles and his gang had been wiped out, Jack was ready to say goodbye to Vegeta and the others. Gak, do you want Vegeta to destroy this spirit tree? Looking at the spirit tree that had picked all the fruits, Bulma asked Jack. Jack shook his head and said, "It's not necessary. I have already picked all the fruits and seeds. There is only one trunk. Even if another Darles comes, it will be useless." As Jake spoke, he stuffed one of the last two spirit tree fruits in his hand into his spaceship. Jack's spaceship is now filled to the brim with those fruits. In fact, a spirit tree can produce less than 10 fruits, but because each fruit is so huge, it directly fills up Jake's small spaceship. Looking at that was barely big enough for him to sit in, Jack hesitated for a moment and threw the other spirit tree fruit in his hand to Vegeta. "Vegeta, this is the reward I promised you. I thought you wanted to default on your debt." Vegeta took the fruit and said, No, how could I owe you money?" Jack smiled and shook his head. "By the way, do you really not want me to report your contribution? If you destroy the Darles pirates, the King of the Galaxy will give you a reward. Who wants that kind of reward? Just say you did it yourself." Vegeta turned around, took the fruit, and entered the spaceship. Jack looked at his back and said to the three of them, "Then, let's say goodbye now." Bulma smiled and waved to Jack. Ties was also waving, but added, "Jack, remember to pay attention to my calls after we separate this time. If you deliberately don't answer them again, be careful or I'll let Vegeta come find you." No. Jake quickly shook his head to deny it, then hurriedly got into his spaceship. Bulma and the others also returned to the spaceship and flew towards planet Yadrat again. On the spaceship, Vegeta sat in his seat, looked at the fruit of the spirit tree in his hand, and took a bite. Although Vegeta had never eaten this thing in his previous life, he was still very interested in its effects. "It's a bit sour." As he chewed, Vegeta savored the taste. He could feel a warm current filled with vital energy spreading through his esophagus and into his body. However, Vegeta soon discovered that the fruit of the spirit tree did not actually have much effect on improving his strength. It is actually a bit like the spirit bomb used by Son Goku in Vegeta's previous life, except that the spirit bomb is an energy bomb that absorbs condensed energy. The fruit of the spirit tree is a physical entity that has absorbed vital energy. The vitality contained in it is not as aggressive as the vitality bomb, but can be absorbed by the consumer. However, this is external energy after all. Even if it can be absorbed, it is only a small part. After being swallowed by Vegeta, most of the remaining energy continued to dissipate from his body with Vegeta's breathing. Sure enough, this thing is evil. After confirming that this thing was of no use to him, Vegeta simply threw the remaining fruit into the trash can without any regrets. On the other side, on the planet Ikonda, after separating from Vegeta and the others, Jack did not leave immediately, but chose to stay where he was and took a final look around the spirit tree. After confirming that there were no remaining fruits of the spirit tree, Jack piloted the spaceship out of the atmosphere. However, just as his spaceship flew out of Ikonda, Jack suddenly saw an incredible scene. Above the planet Ikonda, the white satellite is actually gradually moving away from its dead mother planet. But how could a satellite leave on its own? Jake quickly mobilized the spacecraft's detectors and computer data. only to find out that this satellite was actually transformed into a mechanical planet by the Icon the people for interstellar wars in the past. Now, with the demise of its mother planet, the computers on this mechanical planet seemed to have chosen to leave Icon's satellite orbit and begin their journey into the unknown universe in order to obtain a new source of energy. Because it was built for interstellar warfare, this satellite uses the most advanced technology of the Iconda people. Once it is released, it may pose a fatal danger to other planets. Jake stared at the gradually receding satellite, waging a fierce ideological struggle in his mind. But in the end, his expression relaxed. Well, never mind. Just pretend I didn't see it. My mission is just to stop the Darles pirates. I'll leave the satellite to someone else. Swoosh. Jack's spaceship then headed to another direction. By the way, what is the name of this satellite of the Iconda people? Jack looked at the records on the computer and was a little confused about the name of the satellite named in the Iconda language. Peak. Chapter 79 Ace Patrolman Jake. Not long after, a big news spread throughout the entire northern galaxy. The notorious Darius pirates were destroyed by the heroic efforts of a Galactic Patrolman. Because of this achievement, the Galactic Patrolman was commended by the Galactic King and awarded the title of Ace Patrolman, becoming the second most important person in the Galactic Patrol after Mel's. The Galactic Patrolman who was personally commended by the Galactic King is the Ace Patrolman Jake. In a short time, the name of the brave and righteous Jake spread throughout the entire Northern Galaxy. Northern Galaxy, Frieza's army headquarters. Compared to the outside world's impression of the cruelty of Frieza's army, this planet is far more prosperous and lively than people imagine. Tall skyscrapers rising into the sky can be seen everywhere on the planet, with neon lights flashing like stars dotting the night sky, adding a dreamy touch to the planet. Merchants, tourists, and residents from all over the universe bustled across the planet. In fact, although Frieza is a devil, he is also a shrewd businessman. Compared with his father, he is better at using his resources and influence to build planet Frieza into a prosperous trade center, attracting countless people to invest and develop. It's just that in recent times, Frieza's army has suffered a series of blows. So much so that rumors have gradually begun to spread on the planet that Frieza's army may be doomed. At this moment, Frieza was sitting on his throne, discussing the current predicament of the Legion with Bilibulu, Kikono, and others. Lord Frieza, there have been 3 consecutive incidents of buyers lowering prices recently. They asked us to reduce the selling price of the captured planets by 20%. Frieza listened to Kikono's report with cold eyes. Did our guests say why? No, they just said they thought our offer was too high. Then we will set the planets of these buyers as our next targets. Impolite guests have no value in existence, Frieza said with a cold face. Bilibulu at the side immediately objected. That won't do, Lord Frieza. Taking action against our customers will only reduce our number of customers. This is not the way to do business. Frieza's tail slammed the ground hard. So what should we do? Bilibulu said with disdain. After all, it is you who are responsible for the current situation, Lord Frieza. If you hadn't killed the Saiyans back then, our strength wouldn't have been so severely damaged. Now we're suddenly missing 2 great admirals, Dodoria and Sabo. It's no wonder that others think we're doomed. The corner of Frieza's mouth twitched. Bilibulu was the old man entrusted to him by his father King Cold. He was also an old subordinate who had been taking care of Frieza's daily life since Frieza was born. So when facing this person, Frieza didn't dare to lose his temper even if he had the temper. He smirked. Bilibulu, stop mentioning those Saiyans. I told you that it was Lord Beerus's request. After that, Frieza turned to Kikono and asked, by the way, have you found out what happened to Dodoria and Sabo? Was it that damned Galactic Patrolman who killed them? Kikono quickly replied, Sir, we have investigated it. According to our intelligence, Dodoria and Sabo should have died at the hands of Darius. First, Dodoria was attacked on planet Baz, and then Sabo led his men to track down the Galactic Patrol who were investigating the matter. Then the three parties had a fierce battle on planet Ikonda. Sabo and his men died at the hands of Darius, and Darius died at the hands of that Galactic Patrolman Jack. Frieza held his chin and groaned. Ace Patrolman Jack was able to kill Darius. This guy's strength seems to be not to be underestimated. Billy Blue, do you think we should officially go to war with those Galactic Patrolmen? Billy Blue immediately shook his head. Lord Frieza, let's forget about our current strength. Isn't your top priority right now to recruit more people? Do you think I don't want to? Frieza tapped the throne impatiently. Although the universe is vast, there are not many people who can replace Mr. Dodoria and Mr. Sabo. How's Slug? Balabulu suddenly suggested. Slug. Frieza turned his head and looked at Bilibulu. After a while, a smirk appeared on his face. Yes, if it's Slug, he can indeed perfectly replace Dodoria and Sabo. Slug is another notorious figure in the Northern Galaxy. The Slug Corps under his command had long fought with Frieza's father Cold for the hegemony of the galaxy. However, with the emergence of Frieza, the Slug Corps has been losing ground over the years and has lost its former glory. But even so, there are still many experts in the Slug Corps, and their master, Slug, possesses strength far beyond Sabo and Dodoria. Ha ha ha. Frieza grinned wickedly, already imagining his old rival kneeling down and bowing his head to him. Oh, by the way, how is Ginyu doing now? Frieza asked. Kikanor replied, Captain Ginyu is in good condition. His strength has increased a lot compared to before, which is incredible. But thanks to him, we have gained a lot of new insights into the Saiyan body. Including the rumors about the Super Saiyan you mentioned, we have also confirmed them. Ginyu is also a scary guy. Frieza stood up and gave the order. Then let Ginyu deal with Slug. Remember to tell him to hold back. I want to recruit the Slug army as completely as possible, not a Slug army that is crippled by him. Yes. Kikono looked up, only to find that Lord Frieza was gone. He looked at Bailey Boo beside him in confusion. Where are you going, sir? Of course it's training. Mr. Ginyu makes the adults feel a sense of crisis, hee. Bailey Boo said with a smile. Cyril Star. Suddenly, an urgent cry for help was heard in front of a small house on the top of the mountain. Monette. Grandpa Monette. A Nankian named Monette hurried out of the house and immediately saw two seriously injured Saiyans. Raditz, Kakarot. Raditz dragged the immobile Kakarot, used up his last bit of strength to walk in front of Monet, and then fell to the ground. But a moment later, the two people who were already dying jumped up again full of energy. No matter how many times I try, Grandpa Monette, your healing skills are so magical. Kakarot looked at his body with excitement and felt that the strength in his body had increased a lot. Raditz looked at his brother with a stern face. Kakarot, how many times have I told you not to show mercy? If it weren't for me this time, you would be dead. Sorry. Kakarot laughed embarrassedly. Chapter 80, Warriors Challenging the Ginyu Force. Nankian Monette looked at the two Saiyans in front of him and sighed. Raditz, Kakarot, your mother will be sad to see you like this. Kakarot smiled and said, Grandpa Monette, Mom won't be sad. Fighting is the way we Saiyans live. Monette knew the temper of these Saiyans and said nothing more. He turned around, took a bouquet of flowers and handed it to Kakarot. This is a bouquet of flowers sent by the Zyugo people down the mountain. Take it to your mother. Monette, how many times have I told you that we Saiyans? Raditz was about to refuse, but was stopped by Kakarot. Raditz. He took the bouquet and thanked her. Thank you, Grandpa Monette. Monet's lips curled up slightly. Kakarot, you are almost an adult, right? You are more like your father than your brother. Not long after, on another hill not far from Monet's residence, Raditz and Kakarot, holding a bouquet of flowers, came to two tombstones. Although these two tombstones are on the same hill, There is still some distance between them. Kakarot and the others came directly to one of the tombstones. After putting down the bouquet, the two brothers sat on the ground, took out the food they had prepared earlier, and started eating. Time flies. How many years have passed? It's been almost 10 years, right? I'm almost an adult. Yeah, it's been more than 10 years unfortunately, let alone Frieza. Even dealing with that Ginyu seems a long way off Kakarot. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Kakarot put down the food in his mouth and looked at Raditz, who clenched his hands into fists. His knuckles turned white from the effort, and his body trembled slightly. Kakarot's own breathing began to become rapid and heavy. His eyes looked into the distance, but his vision seemed to go back to the year 740 AD, a day he would never forget. Goodbye. You must survive. Take good care of Kakarot. Watch out for the Galactic Patrol. Accompanied by a loud roar, Bardock watched the two spherical spaceships carrying his wife and children rush into the sky and quickly disappear into the dark night. He knew that this separation might very well be forever, but at least my most important relatives are safe. Ha, what relatives? Don't Saiyans value family affection? It seems that because of those serial people, I am no longer like a Saiyan. Bardock laughed at himself and prepared to leave. However, on the way back, he suddenly felt something in his heart, and subconsciously raised his head and looked in the direction where Ginyu and the others flew away. Bardock couldn't see anything under the starry sky. He had no choice but to take out the new detector that his companion had given him and put it on his head. Beep, beep, beep. Bardock quickly detected the signal from Jin and the others, but what shocked him was that Jin and the other two, who should have flown far away, were still above planet Vegeta and had not even left the atmosphere. How could this be? When Bardock was wondering, he suddenly saw 5 other powerful energy signals approaching Ginyu and the others. Looking at the combat data of these 5 signals, a name suddenly appeared in Bardock's mind. Ginyu Force. Why are they here? At the same time, high in the sky above planet Vegeta, Jin looked out of the spaceship window in panic. Mom, our spaceship seems to be controlled by some kind of gravitational wave. Raditz's scream rang out over the communicator. Mom, are we going to die? Although Kakarot was still young while being hugged by Jin, he seemed to know that danger was about to come. Although Jin had no other options, she could only comfort them. Raditz, Kakarot, don't worry, we will be fine. Ha ha ha. That's not necessarily true. A wild laugh interrupted the communication between the two. Immediately afterwards, 5 figures suddenly appeared in front of the controlled spaceship. One of them clapped his palms in the air, lifted one leg back, and leaned forward 90 degrees. Ginyu Force Recome. Immediately afterwards, the other 2 aliens, one on the left and one on the right, symmetrically raised one hand to their chest, waved the other hand to their side, and took a lunge stance. Jis. Bart. A small green alien came to the front, knelt on one knee, raised his hands high on both sides, and made a movement similar to snake-like hands. Guldo. Finally, a strong purple alien bent down and showed his buttocks to Ginyu and the others without any scruples. The alien's head appeared between his legs, and he made a very exaggerated expression. Ginyu. We are halfway through the conversation. Several people immediately changed their postures and formations and continued to shout, Ginyu Force. Looking at the figure outside the window, Raditz and Jin both took a breath at the same time. Ginyu Force. As Frieza's trump card, although they had never seen them in person, both Raditz and Jin had heard of their great reputation. The Ginyu Force is the most powerful fighting team under Frieza. Although it has a small number of members, only 5, each of them possesses strong strength. Among them, Captain Ginyu has an astonishing combat power of 12. Looking across the entire planet Vegeta, there is no one who can be compared with him. Why are you here? We were only here to report to King Frieza, but we didn't expect to run into 3 little flies. Ginyu touched his chin, his lavender-colored, burly body looking like a small mountain in Jinyu's eyes, his whole body exuding a sense of oppression that she could never match. "Captain, do we want to kill them?" asked a white-haired alien named Jis. "Do not." Ginyu waved his hand. "They are just 3 small flies. We can kill them at any time. But if we kill them like this, wouldn't it be a waste of our Ginyu force? Take them back and interrogate them. Ask them why these 3 Saiyans want to leave at this time. In case Lord Frieza's plan is leaked, we can quickly inform Lord Frieza." "Okay, Lickum, Bart, you two go dismantle the spaceship's thrusters. Leave it to us." Lickum and Bart were about to approach. Swoosh! 2 bright flames suddenly rushed up from under the planet and hit the 2 people accurately. "Stop it!" A figure rushed up right behind them and started punching and kicking Lickum and Bart. After a few rounds, he actually knocked the 2 men out. "Oh." Ginyu had an interested look on his face. "This Saiyan seems interesting." The one who appeared at the scene was Bardock, who risked his life to rush over after discovering that Jine and the others were in trouble. All right, legends, that's it for today. If you're ready for the next chapter, smash that like button and flood the comments right now. Remember, we've got 3 days to prove this story needs to continue. Subscribe so you don't miss the drop, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.